To order.
Recording in progress.
May I have your attention, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. We're by the book here. Okay, I'm calling to order the Historic Landmarks Commission agenda of November 8th, 2023, and we will start with a roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair House. I'll proceed with roll call. Chair Grumbine will join us shortly. Vice Chair House,
I'm here,
Commissioner Butler,
mostly.
Commissioner Dordan,
Here.
Commissioner Jury is absent, Commissioner Insberg,
Here.
Commissioner Lindvik,
Present.
Commissioner McClure is absent, Commissioner Uli.
Present.
We have a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you. So we will start with general public comment.
Thank you, Vice Chair House. I'll go ahead and start with in-person public comment. At this time, I haven't received any speaker slips. If you do wish to speak on an item that's not on today's agenda, you can fill out a speaker slip by the back door. I'm not seeing any movement, so I'll go ahead and move to virtual public comment. If you wish to speak on Zoom at this time, you can raise your hand and I'll call on you. I'm not seeing any hands raised, and we also did not receive any general written correspondence, so I'll turn it back over to you, Vice Chair House.
Thank you. I will close general public comment and proceed to general business. Well, I guess that is part of it, public comment. So then item B is approval of the minutes of the Historic Landmarks Commission meeting of October 25th,
Move to approve.
2023. Okay, is there a second?
Yes, I'll second.
Okay. Uli and Dordan, first and motion and second. Are there any edits?
Vice Chair House.
How did I know?
I just noticed a couple of typos on names.
Uh-huh.
Jim Cannell is J-I-M. I think it says J-I-N.
What did it say?
I think, J-I-N, I believe. He's noted in a couple places where he spoke.
Do you have the page number available? Oh, we have right here.
There it is. And then also,
Oh.
I didn't know, is it Mary, M-A-R-R-Y?
No, I don't
I would-
think so.
So I believe admin staff goes off of what is written on the public speaker slips, but we can have admin staff go through those public speaker slips and confirm spelling for the names.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I had one other question about the summary of the presentation that we had, item 1, was it, last time?
State Street?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
There really wasn't, and maybe this is exactly how normal, there just was no summary of the presentation or any of the discussion.
I think that's typical
Is
for a
that-
discussion item, isn't
it
it?
is?
Yes.
Okay. And would it be appropriate at all to maybe reference where you could get to the Title 31 and also the flow chart that were presented at that? Or is that just something people are expected to go back through the meeting to get to?
They have to
Question.
search for.
Okay, well, I'm just asking.
I don't know.
Through the chair to Commissioner Ensberg, the presentation materials that were at the hearing they were not posted online, so there's nothing to link for the public, but if they want to view those materials, they can go to the recording and view them that way.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. We have a roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair House. I'll proceed with roll call. Commissioner Dordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Insberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Commissioner Lindvik,
Yes.
Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Vice Chair House.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We'll move on to approval of the consent calendar of November 8th, 2023.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Uli.
I'll second.
Second by Dordan. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 1 was 489 West Mountain Drive, which received final approval as submitted. Item B was 485 West Mountain Drive, which received final approval as submitted. Item C was 481 West Mountain Drive, which received final approval as submitted. Item D was 477 West Mountain Drive, which received final approval as submitted. Item E was 221 East Islay Street, which received project design approval and final approval. Item F was 1400 Santa Barbara Street, which received project design approval and final approval with the condition that the color temperature of the LED lighting be 3000 K. Item G was 140 Cannon Drive, which was continued indefinitely with the comments that the garage should have 2 separate vehicle doors. 2, the side windows of the converted garage should be divided light to be consistent with the rest of the house. And 3, the commission waives the additional materials for the floor to lot area ratio.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair House. I'll proceed with roll call. Commissioner Ensberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Commissioner Lindvik,
Yes.
Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Commissioner Dordan,
Yes.
Vice Chair House.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We'll move on to announcements, requests by applicants for continuances and withdrawals, future agenda items, and appeals.
Yes, Mr. Vice Chair, I just want to announce that we have a temporary TV up, and you can see there's a really big box in the back. So we will have the installation of our new screen here shortly. So
And if anybody
hopefully-
wants to buy that one, you can
Yeah,
have it
I
cheap.
know. Well, we might have it out on the sidewalk for free. And then I think that was really the only announcement that I wanted to make. But that improvement should be coming shortly.
Thank you. Any other announcements from staff?
No other announcements from staff
Thank
at
you.
this time.
Any commissioners?
Just in case the meeting is still going on, I must leave at 5:30 today.
Okay, hopefully we will be out of here by then.
That's my hope.
Yes. Okay, subcommittee reports. Are there any of those? Apparently not, so,
Yes. Yes.
that's right.
we
Chair
had-
asked you to report on something State Street.
Yes, and yes, we had the State Street Interim Work Group,
Uh-huh.
and we had a meeting on, a number of meetings recently to coordinate, and then about State Street, and particularly about the bicycle lanes. And so we met, and then this was during the time that Chair Grumbine was out of town, so we hooked him in through technology, telephones. Anyway, after the meeting that we had with staff, with Mr. Bossy, Ms. Clark, and Ms. Harris, we agreed that we would go the next morning and walk State Street. Commissioner McClure and I did that, to walk State Street and just kind of check the whole area out and decide what would be our recommendations that they were requesting about the bike lanes. So we walked the area, and then the next day we gave a report to the council, and basically recommended that a simple solution, and that the lanes be together and straight, not wiggling around, both for aesthetics and also for just, classic design. And we suggested that the full 8 blocks were appropriate because of clarity, not changing from one block to the other, and just having the one straight line down, which would accentuate our, one-point perspective of the street. We felt that, we also said that in the center would allow for the for the side areas to be used by the public, not the public, the pedestrians, because it would be just directly adjacent to the sidewalk, and that area could be used for the outdoor dining as well as other events or activities. And that I guess finally we mentioned that the vertical elements, we were asked a question about that from council, that would be that the parklets, the outdoor dining, and the side elements to them would really be the vertical elements, along with maybe potted plants and, arranged in a way that was appropriate. And then we supported also the white, just simple white bike lane with the yellow in the center, just keep it really simple. And that was our, that's what we put forth. And then ultimately, the council did choose to do a linear, that was what was proposed by transportation, and except for it wasn't in the center. It was off to the side, off-center. So it was good to have the opportunity to be there and to speak to council and to start this conversation ongoing.
Good, thank you for that report. Any other subcommittee reports? Nope, then we will move on to item 1, which is a discussion item, 1200 block of State Street and Lot 11 trellises.
And Mr. Chair, if I may just make a couple of staff comments to you and the commission. Our Public Works staff reached out to me to talk about a couple problematic trellises that are in the EPV. And we wanted to be able to get, some are posing some safety issues, and Public Works staff will be able to walk you through what those are and show you images. But given the kind of the immediate needs, we wanted to be able to get a discussion before you to get your early input and to be able to advise Public Works staff for moving forward. So that's kind of the purpose. And then again, they can walk you through the situation at present.
Thank you. And thank you for coming and coming early in this process. And so welcome. So if you give your names for the record and then your presentation.
Sure. My name is Sarah Clark. I'm the city's downtown plaza and parking manager.
Chelsea Swanson, project planner.
Sergio Arriaga with Facilities Maintenance Supervisor.
Okay.
And Chair House Committee members, thank you for taking the time to review our proposed, not quite a project yet today. And I believe Ellen summed it up fairly well. So we have a number of decorative trellises in downtown, specifically in parking lot 11 and in the paseos that connect that parking lot out to the streets. And the trellis that connects the newly redone Paseo from the Granada Garage out to State Street. These trellises have been damaged over time by termites and by weather, and the materials are beginning to deteriorate and in some cases to fail. Specifically, the one that is on the 1200 block of State Street is currently being held up by supports. So we are seeking to replace the wood material. Likely it's all going to need to be replaced at this point. And with a design that matches what is currently out there and what has been approved. But we wanted to come and to get the committee's input and recommendations on materials. Right now, the original plans had called for them to be built of Douglas fir, I believe. That could be possible to just replace with like, or we could look for materials that are maybe a little bit more resistant to the weather and the termites. I believe one of our contractors had suggested redwood. But I will let Chelsea and Sergio get into the details.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Clark. I'm just going to walk the commission through the existing site photos. So we have lot 11 in front of you. The stars are highlighting the locations of the 4 trellises that are most in need of repair. So one at the top of the page in the walkway that leads to Coda Street, and one that leads to the 500 block of State Street. And then the other 2 are adjacent to Haley Street. So this photo is the trellis that connects between Lot 11 and State Street. The photo on the upper left is taken from Lot 11 looking towards State, and then the other photo is taken as if you were walking from State Street to Lot 11. Per our records, best we can tell, these were constructed, the pergolas within Lot 11 around 1986. There are other plans that show the vine here. This is the one that has a vine that needs repair in this lot that is a cup of gold vine, and that was added later in 2006 as part of a State Street sidewalk improvement project. And these photos are just a side view of that same trellis, looking from that bike parking area adjacent to it. And then this is just simply a close-up of one of the spots on the trellis where you can see the damage that needs repair. And then, one other thing I wanted to point out, for the paint color, as far as we can tell, it's called a Silver Spree 3000, I believe. The last time all the trellises were repainted was that color for this lot. This trellis is the one that leads to Haley Street. So in the upper left, we're looking towards Haley Street. In the bottom photo, we're looking along Haley towards State Street. And again, this one, you can really see the termite damage more clearly and what's happening with that trellis. And then this is the longer trellis that runs parallel to the sidewalk on Haley Street. Upper picture, we're looking east, and the other bottom picture, we're looking towards State Street. And again, just a close-up of some of the damaged wood on this trellis. And then the fourth location for Lot 11, this is the walkway from Lot 11 to Coda Street. So in the upper photo, you're looking towards Coda Street. Bottom photo, we're looking at the side of the trellis along Coda Street. And again, just another close-up of the damage we're seeing at that trellis location. And then as Ms. Clark noted, the other location is the 1200 block of State Street. So the star location is at the walkway connection that leads to Granada Garage. And this view is looking towards the walkway, towards Granada Garage with the bougainvillea vine, excuse me. And this, as far as we could tell, was constructed as part of the State Street Sidewalk Improvement Project in around 1999. This is a side view, and that shows you sort of the buckling that's been happening over the sidewalk. And then this is looking from underneath at some of the damage in the trellis. And then, as Ms. Clark noted, we had a contractor come out and look at it, and their recommendation was really it needed some temporary supports. Yeah. So this is the current situation. And we do have archive sheets. If you want me to zoom into any details, let me know. I just have these in for reference. This is the State Street pergola portion. Again, happy to zoom in on any details, but this is where we noted the Douglas fir was the wood type. And let's see, we have architectural details here. Again, if we need to get into any of those, we can. The most notable thing was the wood type. And then the last sheet we have available for zooming is the 1986 plan for the Lot 11 trellises. This one just has 2 of them on there, but again, happy to zoom in on any of those if you want to look at them more closely. So that concludes the photo presentation.
Okay. And the entirety of?
And the entirety, unless Ms. Clark
I
has
just
anything
wanted
to
to
add
make-
at the end.
Yeah, one more note. You'll obviously have noticed that there are vines growing on top of some of those trellises. Those are likely going to need to be removed in order to make the repairs and the replacement of that. So we would also be seeking the commission's input into whether you want to replace with whether you want to replace with something different. The bougainvillea is a very well-established vine. We may be able to prune it back and have it grow back. That stuff grows pretty aggressively when it wants to. However, the weight of that on top, as well as it tends to, obviously it sheds quite a bit of dead leaves that get sort of caught up there, and that may be contributing to why this wood is deteriorated this way. So we would also be open to alternative suggestions.
Okay, if that concludes your presentation, we'll open it to public comment.
Thank you, Vice Chair House. I'll go ahead and start with in-person public comment. At this time, I haven't received any speaker slips, but if you do wish to speak on this item, you can fill out a speaker slip by the back door. I'm not seeing any movement, so I'll go ahead and move to virtual public comment. At this time, we don't have any virtual participants, and we also did not receive any written correspondence for this item, so I'll turn it back over to you, Vice Chair House.
Thank you. I'll close public comment and open it to questions from the commission.
Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair.
Yes, sir.
I think I know the answer to my question, but I want to pose it anyway. First of all, what is the purpose of these trellises? And secondly, and I have a specific one in mind, but did you look at or consider not replacing some or all of them and just removing them?
Vice Chair House, Commissioner Butler, I assume, and I'm not trying to be glib, that the purpose of the trellises is decorative and to add to the environment in that way. And then we haven't considered removing them. However, we would be open to that suggestion if that is preferred by the committee. So,
If I can follow up. Can you show, I wrote it down, it's Lot 11 Dakota, the photo that you have there? And this is what triggered my thought. If you can find that one. So when I saw that, I just thought, really? Really? Maybe we don't really? Anyway, that's what triggered the consideration, to say, hey, do we really need to replace all of these? I assumed it was decorative, and I assume there are other considerations, and that's great. I'm not opposed to trellises. But I saw this, I thought, you know, maybe we don't need to replace all of them.
Thank you for your questions. Other questions?
Mr. Chair, when I walked around and looked at these, I saw the same issues you've highlighted with the beams and joists. Were there any problems with the columns, with the vertical elements, or are they solid? They're fine.
Good afternoon. My understanding is there's no structural damage to the
Okay.
columns. It's just more of the actual
And
beams.
what is the wood that's up there now?
At least Douglas fir is what
Douglas
we
fir.
know from the archive plans. Yeah.
Are all the columns concrete? Okay.
Yes.
Other questions? If not, we'll move into comments. Commissioner Uli.
I'll take a stab at it. First of all, I appreciate you bringing this matter to us rather than doing the work and then us finding out about it. So I appreciate that. Also, we tend to beat you guys up when you're here, and so I hope not to do that. Why not? I'll leave that to you. Trellises add nice character to the city, so I would hope that the majority of the commission would like to keep them. I think they also provide an identifying marker along the sidewalk to those paying attention to those clues that there's somewhere to go because this is sticking out into the sidewalk. It might be interesting to explore. I know generally we're against synthetic materials, but it might be interesting to explore materials that weather better and are better amenable to maintenance. Because you replace them with Douglas fir or something else, the bugs are still going to eat it. In 15 years, we're going to be talking about the same thing. So I don't know, if it should be a metal profile or something that is much more durable. Might cost a little bit more, but then is more permanent. So I'm open to those ideas. I do enjoy walking through these various places quite often, and so I hope that we sway to the side of keeping them.
Commissioner Lenvik, you have a comment?
Yes, yeah, I agree with Mr. Uli. I think they are a very nice feature in our community. And I look at it from the standpoint, and I have a similar kind of wood stuff outside of my home. And yes, they need to be replaced. And that's the nature of the beast. But I would hate to not have them. What I would probably suggest is that they do be replaced. Now, yes, redwood might be a better material to use. I put decks down using, I think it's Douglas fir actually. But I have come to the conclusion that covering them with a sheet metal cover really prolongs the life of them. And
So that along the top edge?
on the top edge, right. And I've used copper on numerous occasions covering them. Now, what you might find is that you might find that you want to simplify the trellis structure. Instead of having 3 buys or whatever they are at 12 inches on center or 16 inches on center, you might want to simply spread them out and have them at, maybe the same size member, but have half the number. And, or even a third the number, a little larger than a third the number. And I think with a copper cover on it, on both the beam and the trellis member, that you're going to get another 30 years out of them or more. And I think that's all we should expect. I don't think we should be expecting to get a lifetime out of them. And I really do believe that they deserve to be kept and be part of our city. I think we're striving on the State Street Advisory Committee to find ways to make State Street more personal and more intimate and more enjoyable. And I think getting rid of stuff is going the wrong direction. So I would suggest keeping them, maybe simplifying by less members, spacing them out, and putting a copper cover on the top of the beam. It's if you look carefully around town, we're going to see a lot of copper covers on beams.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Jordan.
I also am in favor of keeping the trellises. I'm open to recommendations about the specific wood to be used. I'd like to see wood there, but I'm open to and in terms of the planting, again, I think the trellises are at their best when they have some vegetation on them. But I am open, I'm also aware of Bougainvillea's own issues. So I would be open to suggestions for alternative plantings on them.
Thank you. Commissioner Butler, comments?
So, yeah, I think in general they're great. They're a great addition to the city. Don't misunderstand from my earlier question. I just kind of thought you should always baseline your considerations, right? Say that. There is quite a diversity between the style, and this might be a nice opportunity to sort of move towards more of an EPV-like style. I don't know what that would be, whether that's specific to the cross members or whatever, but you might consider materials. I would agree, having similar experience as others, that would eventually is subject to whatever. But maybe also, because stylistically, maybe, I'm not sure what that would be, but some way to move it a little more closer to the environment that they reside in. So that would be my thought.
Thank you. Commissioner Ansberg.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chair. I pretty much agree with what everyone else has said. I just would add that I think it's always good to step back and look at the big picture, that this is one piece of, and I'm very, very excited and interested in the Paseos and what we're doing at the master plan level. So, thinking about the whole Paseo and what's going to be best ultimately, and whether or not, how these work with that. So this particular one that we're looking at right now, Coda Street, I don't know if it really is contributing that much. It feels kind of pinched. It doesn't really have a place for a vine to grow. It just feels really tight and kind of uncomfortable. So that would be one. But in general, I think we should keep them wherever possible. But I think we should look at them in that light of, like the Granada, where we did that beautiful mural, working with our community and maybe having competitions for more things like that, murals. I know you're talking about the trellises, but it's all related, right? So I think there's more design needed in a holistic way, not just only focusing on the trellises, but how to improve the entire Paseo at the same time. So that's just a thought to think about. And then, but I do agree with the others' comments. And then we didn't talk about the color. I sort of feel like I would rather see the columns be white and the wood be dark. So I don't know why that is, but I think it would be a lot more beautiful with the contrast, the dark, heavy wood with the white columns, and certainly is more in keeping with, EPV. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr.
Okay.
Chair?
Oh, yes, Mr.
Just a follow-up comment. I agree with that, that the gray color of these wood members seems odd. It should be a dark wood color or brown color or something like that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner
Sorry,
Butler.
one other thought would be lighting. I was thinking of near the Granada, because there's lighting through the alleyway, which is quite effective. I don't know if there's power available to each one of these, so that's a whole nother discussion, right? But some sort of lighting, because some of these are pretty long and they get kind of dark down the alley. It's an alley, it's what it is. It's a paseo or an alleyway. So if there's an opportunity to enhance these with some sort of lighting might be another consideration.
Thank you. Okay, my comments are going to come from the perspective of my having been a general building contractor, so I am familiar with Douglas fir, and one possibility is that you can talk to the lumberyard about having it pressure treated, and pressure treated without the indentations. So you can get selected for appearance, they can be pressure treated, they're going to last a lot longer. None of this wood is old growth fir, which held up a lot longer. You look at the Gamble House in Pasadena, and those outriggers are still there, and I mean, they've had some problems with them, but 100 years and they're doing well. Versus the trellis at the Ralph's grocery store, which I was there the other day, and I noticed the tails are falling off, and there are beams that are rotted much worse than these. And so, yeah, this newer growth fir does not stand up. Copper caps are definitely the solution. You wouldn't want to use galvanized sheet metal because that's going to go out pretty soon. As far as the color, I agree. And I think that you have the picture of the one at the Granada, and that's the ideal color. It's not too dark, it's not too light, it's just perfect. And if we could go back to the picture we were just on, I would say it does serve a purpose, because otherwise you're walking between two-story buildings and blank walls, and so this kind of humanizes it. And on a number of these, including this one, those are light fixtures on the bottom of it. So it is a place to provide lighting. And I do favor keeping all of them. This one here at Coda Street is a good example of where you might cut down the number of cross pieces, because they're pretty tight together. They might want to be a little larger if they were spaced further apart, and that would probably cut down on cost. But otherwise, I think generally replacing them like for like, I would favor. I also know wisteria is about the worst thing you could plant on them, because that somehow actually pulls things down. I've seen that happen. And, it's not, there may be some termites involved here, but all that damage we saw is mostly dry rot. And it's because the water just sits on top and just starts rotting away. So this is a discussion item. We're not making a motion, but, and would this be coming back then as an application or what?
So, Mr. Chair, and to the commission, we wanted to get as much information. Again, you can see that the current situation, at least on State Street, is that there are supports. It's really rather unsightly. So we're trying to figure out what the best way to process this quickly, and to, for public works staff, they have to find contract, it's still a decision by the HLC. We're wondering if there are administrative approval possibilities, or, what's the path of least resistance to get them quickly. And so we identified at least an initial discussion item first. So I think as we take this information, we'll be able to get a little bit more information from public works staff for how to get a project. Again, can we do this administratively? Can this be consent? Trying to minimize the, be able to achieve the design results that the commission wants to see, but try to do it in a timely manner.
Okay, so there'd be no objection to coming back to get a project design approval and final approval?
I think, again, if depending on what's possible, I don't know what will be proposed. We need a proposal in front of us by staff, but Whether or not there would be an openness to administrative approval would be, again, the path of least resistance. If it's
Conditions of do this, this, and this.
yeah,
make
and then
be
it's the
administrative.
communication to staff of what you are comfortable with us approving for an HLC administrative approval. If that goes beyond that, or if it's something different, or if it's not kind of based on, the kind of how the commission interprets, then we would probably want to try to get it to consent as more of the, but again, I think that ideally we would get enough information from you, kind of what would the conditions be to inform Public Works staff of what we could grant administrative approval to. Regardless, it needs the planning approval for
Okay,
HLC.
well, let me try and summarize and see if everybody agrees with that, in which case they can just get an administrative approval, and if they want to differ from that, then it would come back to perhaps consent or something.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'm comfortable with administrative approval if it is a like-for-like match.
Yeah.
It's a maintenance project. You replace what's there with what's there. If the proposal is to deviate, then it seems it comes back to consent, so that deviations can be reviewed and accepted.
Okay, so.
Chair.
Commissioner Ansberg.
Could I just add to that I agree, but could they be brown?
Yeah, well, let me summarize first, and then if
Okay.
everybody agrees, then we're good. So the commission is in favor of keeping all the trellises, generally rebuild them like for like. Spacing of members could be adjusted, so there are fewer of them, but keeping the same general aesthetic of these trellises. The color should all be consistent with the color of the trellis adjacent to the Granada Theater. The landscaping on them could be replaced like for like, or pruned back and allowed to regrow. And that they should all have copper caps on the primary and secondary members to protect them. It's a recommendation that the wood be pressure treated without indentations for greater longevity. Does that sound good? Okay.
The only other thing I might add is that this came to us as a package, 1200 block of State Street and Lot 11. 1200 block of State Street seems significantly worse condition.
Yeah.
So if they want to move on one before the other, in other words, it doesn't have to stay as a package.
I would agree with that. I'm comfortable with
How
that.
does that work for staff?
I think the Public Works staff, depending on the financing and kind of what they want to propose, they could have separate projects for each, or they could include it all in one, and, we would accept both of that. And I think it's clear in the intention that the direction is for all of them, whether they decide to split up the projects into.
And we would support fast-tracking the trellis at the Granada Theater.
Great. May I ask one clarifying question? I don't know if this is helpful for Public Works staff, but are there any additional alternatives to the bougainvillea or the existing vines that are there that you would be open to, or is that just, it should be like for
I think it would be better
like?
to be like for like, because we don't have landscape architect
I know,
here
that's-
today, and so if they want to propose something different. The bougainvillea, there's weight, but these things can sustain a lot of weight. It's things like wisteria that really pull things down. And then, once you have the copper caps, the bougainvillea, you have all the fallen leaves, and that holds on to moisture, and that exacerbates the problem. So if you have the copper caps, I think it's going to mitigate a lot of the problem.
Excellent. And may I ask if Public Works staff has any more, that seems to cover most of it, but if there's any other thoughts, I would want them to at least
In
ask.
other words, is that acceptable to you?
Vice Chair House, yes, that would be.
Okay. Thank you very much, and thanks for
Thank
coming
you.
in early.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah. Okay, next agenda item is item 2, an archaeology report, city right-of-way, Mission and State Street. This is located partially in El Pueblo Viejo, and designated a city landmark. The State Street Parkway was designated designed in 1917 by A.B. Cook. This is a proposal to construct a new lighting corridor along State Street between Mitchell-Terena Street to just north of Mission Street, and Mission Street between Chino Street and Anacapa Street, and removal of a portion of the median at the intersection of Mission Street and State Street for a left turn lane. So requesting acceptance of a Phase 1 archaeological resources report prepared by Dudek. Dr. Glassow reviewed the report and agrees with its conclusions and recommendations. Specifically that archaeological monitoring of earth-moving activity should occur along the stretches of streets specified on page 47 of the report. So, if you could give your name for the record and then your presentation, please. And the light will be on when that's on.
Heather McDaniel McDevitt. I'm the author of the archaeological report.
Thank you.
And I'm just opening for the next item, so you can go ahead. Because the archaeological reports are confidential, it won't be displayed on the screen or presented.
Okay, so you're saying I should announce number 3?
No, so you can, she can answer any questions you have about the report,
Okay.
but she can't present it to you because it's confidential.
Okay. Are there any questions about the report? Okay, comments about the report?
I think the report adequately stated the case.
Okay. Would somebody like to make a motion for acceptance as
Also
submitted?
move to accept the report.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Uli, second by Butler. Okay. May we have a roll call, please?
Thank you, Vice Chair House. I'll proceed with roll call vote. Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Commissioner Lindvik,
Yes.
Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Commissioner Dordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Ensberg,
Yes.
Vice Chair House.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. That was easy.
Well done.
Yeah. Mum's the word. Okay, now we're moving on to item 3. This is a new item here for project design approval and final approval. City right-of-way Mission and State Street located, well, let's see, it's the same description, but the State Street Parkway, proposal to construct a new lighting corridor between Mitchell-Terena Street to just north of Mission Street and Mission Street between Chino Street and Anacapa Streets, and removal of a portion of the median at the intersection of Mission Street and State Street for a left turn lane. So this is 2 parts, requesting acceptance of a Phase 2 historic structures site report prepared by Post Hazeltine. Phase 2 concluded the proposed project meets the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation. Therefore, project impacts on significant historic resources would be less than significant, Class 3. Part B is project design approval and final approval are requested. Project compatibility findings and minor alterations findings are required. So if I recall, we start with Part A, then table that, and then move on to Part B.
Yes, correct, Mr. Chair. So the procedure would be to review the report, then review the project, and then vote on the report first, and then vote on the project.
Okay. So if I could have your names for the record and your presentation.
Tim Hazeltine, Post Hazeltine Associates.
Pamela Post, Post Hazeltine Associates.
So, I'm sorry, please. Okay. The historic resource findings for this city landmark were based on a report prepared by Nicole Hernandez. And so I don't think there's a need to go over that right now. We'll focus on the impacts of the proposed project on the resource. In a nutshell, our conclusion is that the loss of that about 20 feet of the median strip does not rise to a level that would make it substantial and adverse. And there are a couple of reasons for that. One is that the median strip is very long, and it's a very large resource. And generally, if you have the smaller the resource, you take part of it off, it creates a larger impact. In this case, it's relegated to the south end at the intersection of Mission Street and State Street. They will, when they truncate that section, they will rebuild a new curb that will match the profile and design and materials of the existing curb. the removal of that portion of the medium strip will not remove one of, any of the historic plantings, which are actually just confined to the pindo palms. Everything else is basically things that have been planted over many decades. There is some sensitivity to this because, of course, it's at the end of the planter strip, or the median strip is the most visible to everyone because it's at the intersection of Mission Street and State Street, which of course is a prominent location. But we feel, given that the entirety of the length of the feature and that all of that will be retained, and that the impact, I think, will not be terribly perceptible, and Pam agrees, to the person looking at the resource once the project is finished. Of course, ideally, we would, generally you don't want to have to change historic resources or alter them, but in this case, there are some safety issues that are basically propelling this project forward. And the standards do allow you to take into consideration the sort of the environment that the changes are being proposed for, and the community benefit. So that's always something to keep in mind. The lighting that's proposed, we believe, is generally consistent with the historic lighting and EPV for the part of the median strip that's in the EPV. We could not find a historic lamp post for that section, so we don't believe there was a special lighting fixture that has disappeared. And what we have now is basically sort of amalgam of different lighting that was added by SCE and the city at different points. And this will sort of regularize part of that, which will make it more seamless with the State Street corridor, I think, than it is right now. So just in summary, yes, a section of the original median strip and planter strip is being removed, but the vast majority, well over 90%, 95% is going to be retained. And the recreated south end of the median strip, I think, will be a close enough approximation of that historic section to diminish the impairment of the historic resource to an acceptable level. If you have any questions, we're here to answer them.
Any more to your presentation?
No.
Okay. So staff, I should open it to public comment for both sections. Okay. So we will open this to public comment.
Thank you, Vice Chair House. I'll go ahead and start with in-person public comment. At this time, I haven't received any speaker slips. If you do wish to speak in person, you can fill out a speaker slip by the back door.
I think they intended to speak on this.
Yes, but they wanted to speak on the project, so I was...
You want to speak on the report? Or just the project? Okay, that'll be next. Okay.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I'll go ahead and move to virtual public comment. At this time, we don't have any virtual participants, and we did not receive any written correspondence for this item. So I'll turn it back over to you, Vice Chair House.
Thank you. I will close public comment, and then I guess we will proceed to the presentation of the project. Is your microphone on? There we go.
Mr. Chair.
And I don't know, we got your name for the record, did we?
No, my name is Erica Madrigal.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, just before she gets going, did you want to take any questions on the report, or do you want to wait?
That's a good question.
Because there was some interest to do the questioning on the report
Yeah.
now
I should
rather
open
than
it to
later.
questions. Okay, so are there any questions on the report?
It prompted me because I do have one.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
Thanks for speaking up.
Did you evaluate any value in providing, I guess, what I would call a ghost outline of the median that's removed, so that if someone standing there could perceive that the median used to exist, but now it's in the middle of a turn lane?
Chair House and Commissioner Uli, no, we hadn't actually considered that, but it's a very, let's say, very simple and easy option, and that would certainly be a way of commemorating that section that was removed. It looked sort of similar to the, the foundations they put across Cannon Perdido and stuff for the Presidio. So we'd be that's a good idea, and we'd be happy to add that.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Comments?
Just one quick question, please, Vice Chair. Does this have anything to do, without seeing the image of the area, does this have anything, is it connected to the walkway, the pedestrian walkway? So like it doesn't have anything to do with the pedestrian walkway coming across and then having a safe harbor in the middle of the street before you extend to the other side?
I would defer to the city for that question.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Commission member. That portion would be for the left turn lane. It wouldn't be for pedestrians, as a pedestrian.
I guess maybe we'll see it when you do the
Yeah, I'll
presentation.
show on the presentation what it looks like,
Thank
yeah.
you. Yeah.
Any comments? Okay, now we will move on to the presentation of Part B.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Erica Madrigal. I'm the project engineer for the City of Santa Barbara. I'm here to present on the Mission and State Street Safety Lighting Project. The project is a state-funded safety project, which will address the pattern of nighttime crashes and improve nighttime visibility along State Street from Mission to Micheltorena and Mission Street from Chino to Anacapa. These corridors are both Vision Zero priority corridors, which the city has made a commitment to eliminate all severe and fatal collisions in our roadways. As a part of this Vision Zero lens, traffic engineering staff evaluated the project limits and identified the intersection of Mission and State as a location where it's challenging for left-turning vehicles from State Street to go on to Mission Street. The next slide shows further detail into this concern. So these are the existing conditions. So drivers have to make their left turns from the through left turn lane up here. And as a result, it's difficult to see oncoming traffic in the northbound direction. And to alleviate this concern, a dedicated left turn lane would be needed to be implemented for southbound drivers. To do so, however, part of the median would be removed. After the city received a grant for this project, the median island on the State Street was designated a historic structure. As a part of the process, city traffic engineering staff met with Fred Sweeney, Patricia Saley, Mary Louise Days, Councilmember Sneddon, and Nicole Hernandez in March of 2022, and it was understood early on that the safety project was upcoming. At the time, staff agreed to minimize the amount of median island removal needed to implement the safety feature. This next slide illustrates the improved visibility of southbound drivers with the dedicated left turn lane. You can see that it's pushed toward the center of the road, and you can see the northbound traffic onward, so it's safer to make the left turn. So to implement a standard left turn pocket, 35 feet of the median would need to be removed by providing 2 spaces for vehicles to turn left. With that said, we did try to find a balance between historic preservation and safety. So for that reason, we determined the minimum amount of removal for the median would need to be 20 feet, allowing enough space for one single vehicle. This exhibit shows to the left the existing conditions, the alternative one, that was the 35 feet removal, and 20-foot removal. Anything less than 20 feet would not make this left turn pocket functional. So let's move on to the lighting of the project, the lighting element of the project. The State Street lighting corridor between just north of Mission Street all the way down to Micheltorena Street falls within the boundaries of El Pueblo Viejo. Along the project corridor, we have a primary use of the Doma-style lights as well as the slimline, with one intersection having the teardrop style. So with the Mission and State Street Safety Lighting Project, we aim to provide a more consistent lighting along the corridor for safety. So this is a picture of the existing conditions and the proposed conditions. The existing slimline fixtures are proposed to be changed to the Doma style to provide for uniformity along the corridor. The lighting project will also include 2 additional Domus-style lights at each of the signalized intersections and 2 additional lights at the mid-blocks. So that's the third one. The question we have for HLC today is that currently Arriaga has the teardrop style fixtures. You can see that right here. And we are proposing to, if we want to change them to Domus style. Here's a better image of the teardrop style at Arriaga and State currently. And another question is, for the median, how would you like it to look? Would you like it to be like existing, or have it match the other end and have vegetation? And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll open it to public comment.
Thank you, Vice Chair House. At this time, I do have two speaker slips, so we'll go ahead and start with Fred Sweeney. You can make your way up to the podium, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Mr. Chair, I would make a request. I'd like Pat Saley. We're both involved with this, but I'm going to speak just as an artichoke, not as a member of the Upper East Association.
Public may not understand that joke.
Anyway, can Pat speak first, and then I'll speak, if that's okay?
Certainly.
Okay, thank you.
It's a cooking term.
Yeah, okay.
Used a few minutes already.
Chef Fred.
Good afternoon. I am
afternoon.
not an artichoke.
Okay.
Thank goodness, an architect. My name is Pat Saley. I'm here speaking on behalf of the Upper East Side Association. I'm on that board. And I am speaking just to the proposed shortening of the median, which, as you know, is a historic landmark. Upper East worked very long and hard to get that designated, and we were very pleased that your commission and the City Council unanimously supported that. But as you know, anytime you have any change to a historic landmark, it warrants careful consideration of anything that is planned that may affect it. Case in point here. The association did know that the left turn pocket was planned sometime in the future, but until less than 24 hours ago, we didn't know it was on this agenda, which is really unfortunate. There is very little info online. Some of the pictures you saw, they're not online, so we just don't have any info. We are generally okay with the concept. We live in the area. We know that corner making a left is difficult. But it is a concept. What you have before you is a concept, in my opinion, and I have been around artichokes for a while. So in our opinion, these are concept drawings. They are not ready for PDA or final approval, and we would encourage you to continue that aspect to a future meeting so we can see in more detail what is planned, including the landscaping the engineer just spoke about. The landmark designation staff report talks about not just having dirt, it should be landscaped. These are the kinds of things we'd like to talk about, and we feel this is premature. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Fred Sweeney, speaking as the artichoke architect. I just want to cover a few things. Getting back to the notification issue, I did run into one of the property owners on the northwest corner this morning when I went down to do some measuring, and he had not heard about this at all. And so I don't know, there may be a threshold which Public Works doesn't have to announce these projects. So that's just a question. On the drawings, there's no paving pattern and how this left turn intercedes with the crosswalks that do show on the drawings. I was not clear on that. And again, these don't look like final drawings, at least in my world. Final drawings have details, et cetera. One of the things that I did look at, that curved, the circular area that's going to come out, the little circular concrete curb from 1918 that comes out, it's actually broken, but there's nothing on the drawings to tell me will it be replaced with a concrete curb and gutter, which may not have occurred in 1918 because now it's been paved over. So I'm not sure how the historians will look at how it gets replaced. And then there's signage there now. The 20 feet is to where that vertical sign is that's required by the state as you look at those photographs that were just presented. There's nothing on the drawings that tell me dimensions, any of that information. So I'm lacking what these mean by final drawings. And then finally, as the architect for the airport, I was forced to have to use those Domus fixtures in the parking lots. And they're, in my view, not appropriate. They're not appropriate at the airport. They're not appropriate downtown. I think that the light fixtures need to be much closer to what is in the main part of the El Pueblo Viejo. And remember, this is still part of the El Pueblo Viejo. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I don't have any further speaker slips. And I'm not seeing any movement. We also do not have any virtual participants, and we did not receive any written correspondence for this item, so I'll turn it back over to you, Vice Chair House.
Thank you. I will close public comment and go to questions from the commission. Anybody? Commissioner Lenvig.
Yeah, I'm curious. You have chosen not to put lighting fixtures on the north side of State, only on the south side. Is that correct?
Chairman, yes. The extents of the project start just north of Mission.
But
State.
you have fixtures going up State Street on the
Up
south
north
side.
of,
Well, the drawings aren't clear, and I thought you showed a drawing which had light fixtures all the way up to
there's
is it Cienegaitas?
the most northern lights are going to be at Mission. So there's one light just north of Mission and State.
Well, it looks from this illustration, proposed conditions, there's 3 new ones and 1 existing. Is that true?
Correct.
Okay.
So that one just north of Mission is an additional light.
What are those
for
green
the-
what are those green dots that run up and down vertical?
Those are the Domus fixtures.
It's a fixture, right?
Yeah.
So my question is, you're not putting any new fixtures on the north side of State Street?
There are 3 of them labeled new.
Or so you have,
So this intersection is Mission and State. Just north is one light. Going southbound, there will be 2 lights mid-block each. And this is heading south.
is there a reason why there aren't lights paired on both sides of State Street, running the length?
Yes, so the 2 lights should be sufficient with the Domus style to go over the street. The reason why we chose those sides of the street is because of utility conflicts. So that's why you kind of see it be on the west side and jump to the east side of the street.
So these fixtures reach out to the center of the street?
How long is the mast arm? Do you know?
I think it's 10 feet, 8 to 10 feet.
Okay, so the fixtures
the
won't
fixture
line up
itself.
in a row.
And where have you used that fixture with that long arm elsewhere in town?
They're,
Extensively used.
yeah, they're all along, they're currently along State Street.
If I could
So
just
if
add
you- yeah.
something. Long ago, we reviewed with Public Works standardizing street fixtures so that they weren't coming back each time and there were different members saying, oh, we should choose this fixture. So we kind of said, okay, if you stick with this fixture, it simplifies approval. So that's why they're using this particular fixture.
Yes,
You're to
everyone.
I'm to blame.
Question, so can we see the pictures of the fixtures again? Please. So these all exist many places.
Yes.
So,
But that Doma stuff, that's not a 10-foot arm.
No.
yeah, what is that arm?
I believe it's between six. I believe it's between 6 and 8, but I'm not sure. I would have to look at the city standard.
Come in
Yeah,
different lengths, but.
but it would be
See
the
on that
city standard,
teardrop, it's
whatever
not a
is
very
out
long
there
one.
currently.
Well, I know this is a question, and I mean, these are questions right now as opposed to comments.
Right.
So, what are we lighting? What's the intent of what you're lighting?
The intent of lighting is to light the street because it's essentially to improve nighttime.
So you have the
Visibility.
fixture out to the middle of the island,
At Mission, yes.
going up and down State Street.
Yes. But you said island.
Pardon me?
You said the island.
Well, no, well,
You can use the public comment.
the thingamajig.
Define thingamajig.
I'm sorry.
Well, the landscape median. The light fixture is reaching out to the center of the landscape median?
I think he's got a response to your question.
Hi, everyone. Bedad Gergozli with the City of Santa Barbara Public Works Department. The Domus-style fixtures have, like Erica mentioned, a 6 to 8 foot arm on them. They don't need to go all the way out to the center of the road to provide that kind of lighting. They do project forward. One of the reasons, in addition to what Erica mentioned about the utility conflicts, is just it's really the price of installing these light poles and getting conduit and power to them. Putting them on both sides of the street is just cost prohibitive. It would be nice to do so, to provide better lighting on the sidewalks, but this is the extent of the budget that we have allowable with this project. But we feel comfortable that it'll do a adequate job lighting up the entire roadway with lighting on one side of the street.
This is a historic street. And I don't know that the light fixture that's being proposed is representative of what an historic residential kind of street would be, should be lit like.
This is sounding like a comment.
Well, I tried to phrase it as a question, but
Oh, okay.
'cause I'm not sure, I'm not sure.
Inflection at the end, okay.
Yeah, your question is?
The question is.
Yes.
Okay.
All
Other
right,
questions?
the bottom line is I'm confused about the lighting pattern in this historic corridor.
Okay.
Chair
Mr. Vice
Grumby?
Chair.
I mean, Vice Chair House, sorry.
What did you call me? Commissioner Ansberg.
Thank you. So the Domus has a 6 to 8 foot throw on the arm, and the teardrop, obviously, much more. What is that? What is that one? And I'm sure it comes in different lengths, but what's the maximum length that one can have? Or do you know, on the teardrop?
It's like 15.
Yeah, I think they're about 15 feet on that arm.
Okay. And so I think maybe this gets back to some of the public comments of, just the specifics of the design that we're kind of struggling with right now to understand. Is the intent to have the light come over and be above, what's the best result? If it comes over and is above the median strip so that the light is coming down through the vegetation? Or is it over on one side, in which case then there's sort of question about the light and how it throws, and then it's going through the median strip to the other side. So just the light pattern on the ground of what happens. So I think that's a question of how that works, and maybe gets back to the public commenters.
Let me ask another question that might help clear that up. Does the Domus come in different distribution styles?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so there's, just pool of light, there's forward throw, there's, that sort of thing.
I understand that, but I'm
Okay.
saying wherever, if it only has a 6 to 8 foot arm and it's located on the side of the road, then it's going to get to about the middle of the street
Right,
on
but I
that
don't think
side.
there are a lot of fixtures in town that hang over the center of the street.
Well, it's just part of the design that I don't understand of what, are they trying to do light one side of the street but not the other side, or hope that some of the light bleeds over to the other side? So I'm just trying to understand that the pool of light and where it's designed to be located for the best lighting condition and also the aesthetic for this particular very sensitive neighborhood.
Okay, Commissioner Butler had a question.
Yeah, my question relates to the last point. Beyond this section of State Street, what do the rest of the lights look like? Are they this domus style? So this would be continent and continuous with the existing light design on State Street, or is this different?
Yeah, yes, Commissioner. So as you can see on the layout, most of these lights are domus with the slim lines at 2-3 intersections. So we have slim lines at Mission, Valerio, and Mitchell-Torena. Those will be changed to domus, and the rest of the corridor will be domus just for consistency. Going back to that question we had for you, is Arriaga has the, let me show you, the teardrop style, yeah, and we would like to change it to domus.
So I think I understand that. My
For
question is, when you
consistencies.
go out of this section that you're considering proposing changing the lighting, what's lighting that section? Are they domus lights elsewhere, or are we introducing a new lighting style to this section of State Street?
To this section of State Street, to my knowledge, it's domus. I mean,
Wait a minute,
yeah.
sir, we will take your question later, or were you going to show us a picture or something, or?
No, but again, my concern is that we be consistent beyond this particular proposal in this project.
Let me follow up with, on that question. Back on your maps,
Yes.
so where it doesn't say new, is that to say there is a domus fixture there now?
Correct. It's existing.
Okay, so there are already domus fixtures installed in this area. My other question is, where does this State Street standard fixture end?
Right.
The lanterns, yeah. Do we know where that ends?
To my knowledge, it ends at Victoria because it goes down to the shorter
Okay.
State Street, other State
Because
Street
actually, I
style
did
lights.
some years ago prepare a map. I got a DWG of the entire city from Public Works, and I walked around and I spotted every light fixture and what kind it was, and Edison Cobra heads and stuff like that. But of course, nobody looks at it.
Mr. Chair, if I could interrupt, public comment has ended, and so if we want to reopen public comment, that is up to your discretion, but having board members converse with members of the public, and then we also, there are Brown Act rules about ex parte
Right.
communications.
Okay.
So if you're receiving communications from members of the public, you need to disclose those communications prior to the beginning of or at the beginning of the item. And then, again, if you would like to give the public more opportunity to speak, you can reopen public comment, but we can't have this type of
I
chaos
understand,
going on.
and I was trying to avoid that.
Mr. Chair?
A little crazy.
These drawings weren't part of our, available to us, were they? I mean,
don't
I
remember.
look at at the stuff that I was given, and I don't see these drawings.
Pardon my interruption, Mr. Chair, to Commissioner Lenvik. No, this is the PowerPoint presentation prepared by staff. We do have the plans that were linked to the agenda available for view as well.
And do they show basically the same mapping of fixture locations?
They do show the same mapping. This PowerPoint has a little more detail.
They're online?
This PowerPoint presentation is not available online, but we do have the plans that were linked to the agenda that you viewed.
Are they online?
The
The
plans
plans?
are
The ones
online,
that were linked to
yes.
the agenda.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Uli.
it does, for Captain Obvious, it seems like we're struggling on this matter. In my own opinion, I don't think the drawings are complete enough for design approval or final approval. There is a great deal of information missing in the details to help us feel comfortable about what's going on. So there's that. Second, I think in my own opinion, that Domus fixture is ugly. It's unfortunate that we're populating the streets with ugly fixtures. I much prefer the teardrop, but, you know, that might be a boat has already left and I'm too late to get on it. But I'm wondering, in terms of trying to move the matter forward, could we take action on A and get that piece of the work done? And my suggestion would be to continue the project to a future meeting where they can develop a little more detail and bring it back to us with a fuller picture.
I would agree with you about that. How does everybody feel about that?
Well, is the Phase 1 architectural report prepared by Post Heselton, does it deal with the light fixtures on the entire length of the historic parkway?
Since that's a question, may I answer?
You certainly may.
Thank you, Chair. The Phase 2 report focuses on the historic streetway, which is a landmark. It's a standalone landmark.
Part above Mission.
Above Mission, thank you. The part below Mission is in El Pueblo Viejo, but has not been the city's standard practice ever to bring light fixtures through a historic resources report, primarily because EPV is a historic design district. It's not, it's not a standard historic district, as we all know. And so that has not been a policy before. And I think part of that is because, as you noted, Chair, there's a series of approved light fixtures that have been sort of approved for use. So if it's not in a historic district or in a historic landmark, then it doesn't go through a historic resources review. But of course, Nicole can add to that if need be.
Any comments on that?
My only comment is, I know along with the commission, we're trying to go to the practice of thinking of El Pueblo Viejo as a district and unifying it. And as we talked about, you're talking about contributing and non-contributing structures. So I think we're looking at looking at El Pueblo Viejo as a district. But we have never looked at, you guys have looked at utilities all through the district, from parking meters to all sorts of things, so I don't.
Yep, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Uli.
I agree with the author of the report. The focus and nature of the report is to evaluate the impact on a landmark resource. And typically, infrastructure like lighting and others have not been the subject of such a report. Given the report, I think the key element about it is if we're comfortable with the low impact to the resource, then I think the real question we have to decide is, do we think a 20-foot impact is less of an impact than a 35-foot impact? It seems to me, once you decided that it is a low impact, we should allow it to be 35 feet so that sufficient turn lane can be produced to increase safety, and not just simply chomp it down to some arbitrary number. Personally, I'm comfortable with the analysis that suggests that any impact to that resource is a low impact. From the perception of the public, I don't think they would really know the difference unless there was a ghost of the outline of what it used to be, but otherwise, people driving by there, I don't think would know the difference. So I personally support allowing it to be a 35-foot or a 40-foot chomp out of it so that we can increase safety.
Which would not be accepting the findings of the report and asking the report preparer.
Well, I don't know. I think I would look to the report writer. As I said, I think once you analyze that the impact is minimal, 20 foot or 35 feet doesn't really make a big difference.
Okay, let's find out how others feel.
I would actually defer to Nicole on that, since it's more of a question about whether the report should come back with it. If the design was changed, which we don't know that the city would do that, Public Works. So I don't want to step in an area that's not our purview.
Will you analyze the 35 feet and the 20-foot?
We did, but
Okay.
yeah, in a draft. And I will say, we were a little uncomfortable with the 35, only, not that it's a huge difference, and it's not. It's more that our philosophy generally, and it's not always the case, is, the more of the resource you can preserve, the better. And if there's a way of accommodating a little less loss, but still maintain like public safety, then we're for that option.
Yeah, I concurred with that when I read the report. The least amount that they need to pull off is the best, because then we'd still have the most of our parkway.
Well, would anybody like to make a motion to accept the report as submitted?
I'll move to accept the report as submitted.
Okay.
Second.
All right, motion by Uli, second by,
What's his name?
What's his
what's
name?
his name? His right,
at the end.
Butler.
How long have I known you, Steve?
I know, well, you try being chair and balancing all these balls. Okay, so could we have
we
a
have
roll call
discussion?
vote on that?
Chair, Vice Chair?
Yes.
Do we have discussion after the motion?
Not usually.
Well, we have the motion, the second, and then any further discussion, right?
Okay.
Okay. Well, two things. Now that I am in the doghouse,
Again.
I'm not even sure whether I can speak to this now, but is it possible that we can reopen the public comments so that the public can share what was whispered in my ear? And I won't ever do that again.
Staff?
So just to, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, I think what would be best is for ex parte communications, as Ms. Rydell pointed out, if Commissioner Ensbug could share what she heard, because this is a little bit unprecedented, and it's generally, again, we don't encourage conversations with applicants or members of the public during a hearing. So I think it's best for ex parte to share from your perspective, and then you still have the ability as chair to reopen public comment should you wish, but you're not obligated to. It's your choice as chair.
Well, I didn't see that going on, so I wasn't able to put my foot down.
Okay. Right,
I'll hit her
I
with it.
totally
Hold on a
understand.
second.
My apologies, and Mr. Sweeney was just, he just said the word photometrics. So just looking for that technical information. So that's what I heard.
You can't talk, Fred.
That is what I heard.
No, you had your chance.
Excuse me.
Yeah,
So
there's back
again,
and
there's
forth
no
going on.
conversation. Mr. Chair, you're running this meeting.
Right.
You may reopen public comment should you wish,
Yeah.
but you are not, but that's your call if you wish to reopen it. And if that's the case, we need to kind of formally establish that public comment is open. And then it would give everybody in the room another, it needs to be fair, and we need to just
I
have a
totally
clear
understand.
process.
I'm
Thank you.
doing my best to herd these cats, so.
Thank you. I know, it's hard to be chair.
Great.
Okay, so I would like to open public comment again. Mr. Sweeney. The more information, the better.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to give you more information. I'm not trying to twist this one way or the other. I think it would be most helpful in answering your question about how far those fixtures have to hang over into the street is if the engineering staff can provide you a photometric plan. It actually shows the pattern of the light throw. That would answer Mr. Lindvik's question about where you put the lights. So whether it's Domus light or the other pendant light, by providing that kind of plan, it will answer your question of where those lights have to go in order to cover the lighting pattern in the street. That's what the engineering department is trying to achieve for safety. So that's one thing. Second thing is, just to be clear, if you do 35 feet from the edge of that round curb, you're taking out the Pendo Palm. I believe what was stated, and as I was sitting here listening, the 35 feet, that's why, because there's no dimensions on these plans, you can't understand. The 35 feet is where the left-hand turn lane meets the crosswalk, the painted crosswalk, back. And a part of that 35 feet is the 20 feet that would have to come out of the landscape parkway. It's not 35 feet back from the curve because that would take out the Pendo Palm. They're spaced at 30 feet. So I'm just trying to give you, and I'm sorry, this is a public hearing. The public should have the opportunity to have a conversation to provide appropriate information. I think that the city attorney's office really needs to think about how the Brown Act is actually implemented. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I will close public comment again, unless there's any more public comment. Is there any more? Doesn't appear so. So I'll close public comment. Where were we? We have a
call
motion.
for the question.
We have a motion and a second to
And-
approve the report as submitted.
And I, Vice Chair House, I had one other question. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. And so that was good information. I guess I have a question about the report, which I have such great respect for our historians and the report and the work that they do, but I'm still struggling with this, so I'm not quite sure where to go with it. It's in terms of a vote, if we're going to
You're
vote
struggling with,
to approval of the historic report.
okay, because of how some information is presented, it's ambiguous, or?
No, I just, because of it being the terminus, is I guess what's getting me, is that this is not just sort of along the way, it's at the, it's at the terminus, the beginning and the end, which seem to me to have even greater importance. Maybe they don't look as, maybe it needs work, but, so anyway, I just don't want to be at all disrespectful to not accept the report, but I also am just struggling with this issue.
I'm sorry to interject, but I thought the Commissioner, you framed that as a question. So are you looking for a response from the report preparers?
Do you understand the question? Because I'm not sure I do.
Somewhat. So if I can, Ms. Ensberg, if I can give you my understanding of your question, and if I'm wrong, you can tell me.
Thank you.
You are concerned that the removal of 20 feet of the median strip at the south end of the Parkway, which is, I noted verbally, and as I think also in the report that Pam and I prepared, is that is a very public part, and that's why the sensitivity to any alterations there are more than they would be in the center, of course. But as we noted in our report, we look at the resource very holistically as much as we can. So the size of a resource and its dimensions and do inform our analysis. And of course, if you had a parkway that was 2 blocks long, it would be a larger impact to remove 20 feet or maybe 10. But when you have one that's, I can't remember now, it's 600 feet, about six, thank you.
Yeah. 6 blocks.
Yeah, 6 blocks long. And it is in a public, obviously in a space, an area that does get public visibility. But we always weigh that in the way of how is that change is going to be perceived? What are the types of materials being removed? And so, of course, if it was something where the curb was sandstone block that had been finished in a distinctive manner, or that the planting scheme itself was unique or very important as an example of landscape planting, then we would have had many more reservations about removing that section of curb at the south end of the parkway. So we look at the resource in the totality, look at the level of impact that intervention causes, looking at this, as I said, the size of the resource and its configuration and public visibility.
That's helpful. Just if I could ask another question is, when you're considering this, obviously, like I said a moment ago, it is the end point. These are the, well, this is the south end, the south end. So it's it's a special piece because it's not the continuation. It is the end piece at Mission. So do you think about, or when you're considering this, that it would be pulled back 20 to 30 feet, and then instead of being where it's positioned right now you would have traffic occurring in that space that once was a landscape space?
Okay, well, I've walked by there because I don't drive because of vision impairment, but when I do walk along there, you do see people pulling their cars in that area sometimes. You see bicyclists. It's not a static space, and I think that's something about a parkway and a street or expressway that is a little different, is that the moving vehicles are actually kind of part of that. That kind of helps you read it as a road, a street. So that is one of the elements of the resource in a sense. It's not something that's, static. It's moving all the time, but it is part of that resource. So having that occasionally blocked by traffic, even when people are making turns, we would not consider that a substantive impairment of the resource. A substantive, something like that could be substantive if there was some sort of change that's being proposed that was going to block that area from any view. So you would barely be able to see it because of some change that the project was having happen. But left turn, right turn lanes, yes, they are used fairly frequently, but those cars aren't there all the time.
Thank you. Thank you for helping.
On the floor, I would like to take a roll call vote.
I did call for the question.
Yes, you did.
All right. Thank you, Vice Chair House. I'll proceed with roll call vote. Commissioner Lindvik? Commissioner Lindvik?
I'm thinking. Go to somebody else.
Commissioner Uli?
Yes.
Commissioner Dordan?
Yes.
Commissioner Ensberg?
Thinking.
Commissioner Butler?
Yes.
Vice Chair House?
Yes.
Commissioner Uli?
Oh, you got me already.
Oh, sorry.
You
Commissioner
don't get to
Lindvik?
vote twice.
I get to vote twice?
No, that's voter fraud. Okay. Commissioner Lindvik,
No.
May we have your answer?
No.
Okay.
Commissioner Ensberg?
I'm going to say no, too.
Okay.
Motion passes.
Motion passes.
Thank
Okay, thank you. All right, so where were we?
Why they said no?
What's that? Oh, would you like to state why you said no?
Well, I'm concerned that a 35-foot cut into the tree and whatever's there is different than a 20-foot cut. And they're both deemed acceptable.
No, the report concludes 20 feet is desirable, not 35.
Yes, pardon my interruption, Mr. Chair, but just to clarify, yes, the report evaluated a 20-foot cut. So if and because the commission accepted that report, they're accepting that 20 feet does not impact the resource. If the applicant comes back and proposes 35, they would need to come back with a revised report.
Well, then I'll correct my vote then to yes.
Okay. And Commissioner Ansberg?
I would like if both could come back, the design work that's going to be coming back and this could come back at the same time would be my preference, so that we could just review both of them again when we
Okay.
see some
But
of
we
the.
have passed the motion for
Correct.
Yeah.
accepting
pardon
the
me,
report.
Well, you asked me the reason why.
Right, I
That
know.
was my reason.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so where were we with the project? Did we, yeah,
No, Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Landvik?
my concern is not so much the level or the amount of light as it is the aesthetic of looking down the street and not seeing a regular pattern of light fixtures occurring. And that, to me, that's an aesthetic thing, and that's what our job is. And the light is going to work it out, but I don't like this uneven, one fixture here and another one there, but none over there. It doesn't make sense. And they have one fixture that they're putting on State Street above Mission, if I recall. But there's not one on the other side, and I don't know if there's going to be more going up the street or not. And this is, I consider this a residential street.
Okay,
And I'm concerned about the aesthetics of fixtures.
thank you. Let's hear from this gentleman.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. A few things that I had noted down. So the Domus style fixture is currently our city standard fixture in the EPV area. So that's why we're proposing to use that fixture through this section. The spacing that you mentioned, we're looking to standardize that spacing with this project. So when you look up the corridor, you'll see 2 mid-block lights per block. You'll see 4 intersection lights at each intersection. So if you're looking up the street, you'll there will be that uniformity that doesn't exist right now. Right now, if you look up the street, you'll have a mixture of the slimline fixtures, some Domus fixtures, and then that one intersection that has the teardrop style fixture. With regards to the lighting, it's been our standard with these lighting projects to to install, if it's not a heavy vehicle area, on one side of the street with our 6 to 8 foot arm, we get a good 40 to 50 foot projection of light forward. So we feel comfortable that this lighting style, spacing, and pattern will address the nighttime crashes that we're seeing along the corridor. One other item about the teardrop fixture, that style of fixture doesn't do as good of a job of lighting up the roadway. It does have more light trespass outwardly. So we're looking to have something specifically light up the roadway and the sidewalk areas around it. So again, it would be nice from my perspective if we had good lighting on both sides of the street along all of our corridors. That's my personal opinion, but utility conflicts and cost of conduit and all those go into play. We also do have the project plan set. So the presentation that you got with the exhibit, it is kind of cartoony, and that was part of it, was to try to simplify the plan set, but we do have that plan set if you'd like to go through those details, and it shows the length of each arm, the standard detail for the Domus style fixture. It has all those details in there if you guys would like to look through those.
Is that part of what was linked to in the agenda, or?
To the chair and the rest of the commission, yes, the plan set that you're seeing on the screen now is the plan set that was linked to the agenda. What was presented to you was a PowerPoint presentation prepared by the applicant team to better illustrate some of the
Well, if I may
details.
butt in before there's any further comment, my feeling is that we should continue this. We want more complete documentation on the plans of dimensions, and I think we want a photometric plot so we understand what kind of light levels you're going for. And I think to the commission, it would be helpful, if you drive around and note what is the pattern of fixtures on streets now, and if it's like this, we just never noticed it, apparently. So I think that would be helpful. How does everybody feel about that?
I like that direction, and, the color of materials and that kind of a thing, as we normally expect, should be part of a final packet that we are approving, and
I think
that's not present.
Is part of the standard fixture approval, isn't it? Yeah.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Commissioner Jordan.
one other comment. I do not believe this project is ready for PDA or final at this time. One reason is that based on public comment, I believe the time available for public comment prior to the meeting, in other words, for public input and review by the community, has been inadequate. And this is the median strip has been the subject of a great deal of public community discussion because of its recent change, because of its recent designation. So I do not believe that, as I said, that this is ready for PDA or final at this time, and should be continued.
And I have a question of staff. Very often I get these green cards in the mail telling me of things that are on the agenda for even ABR, and I'm thinking, why am I getting this? But were those sent out to the neighborhood for this project?
No, this project did not trigger a public notice, which is what triggers those little cards you get in the mail. So this project, per the Historic Resources Ordinance, did not trigger a public notice. However, anyone interested in the project can contact us and be registered as an interested party. Both of the public speakers will be registered as interested parties, so they will be notified when the project returns.
Can I request that a green card be sent out to the neighborhood?
I don't know, but we can look into it, given the sensitivity of this particular project. I'm sure that you can't condition it, but we can look into that. And I just, to Mrs. Rydell's comment to the commission and members of the public, I would encourage everybody who's interested to sign up as an interested party, and you will receive an automatic email from the HLC secretary when this item is posted. So you'll get the agenda email just like all the commissioners do when the information goes out, and then it would be your responsibility to kind of look to see where it falls on the agenda, where the project falls.
Commissioner
Mr.
Dorgan.
Vice Chair, can I ask a question of staff? Do I understand it that online public comment at council and board meetings is coming to an end soon?
That's correct. That was the direction that we received, and so starting November 13th, we will no longer have the Zoom element. So people can submit written correspondence, email, show up in person, and that's across all boards and commissions and city council.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll move that we continue this item indefinitely.
Okay, and do you want me to summarize those comments again? Okay.
Yes, that would be great.
It would be for the applicant to provide photometric plot of the lighting, further detail on the plans dimensioning, details of the modification to the State Street median at Mission. What else was it?
Well,
There was a recommendation that the commission survey relevant areas of the city to evaluate what the existing conditions are in terms of light fixture, spacing, and placement.
And the drawing should have the details of the lighting fixtures themselves. I only saw geometric work on the paving and lighting locations, but I didn't see that detail big enough that I can actually read it. You know, it needs to be a page, so.
And I would, Mr. Chair, I would like to know what's existing that we're companioning to. I don't see Pedregosa as a cross street on these drawings.
Well, I think that'll be helpful if we drive around and
Yeah,
evaluate.
but I assume Pedregosa is one down from Mission, you know, and maybe it's got a gas station there. You don't need additional lighting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a motion. Did we have a second?
I'll second it if it wasn't seconded.
Okay, a second by Commissioner Lenvick. Roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair House. I'll proceed with roll call vote. Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Commissioner Dordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Ensberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Commissioner Linvik,
Yes.
Vice Chair House.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to the public for coming in and sharing your wisdom. Okay, we are moving on to item 4. 1801 East Cabrillo Boulevard. This is located in El Pueblo Viejo Landmark District. Proposal for exterior alterations to the existing buildings as follows: remove, replace windows and doors, relocate existing retaining wall, new deck, rearrange demising wall, new AC system, restripe and reconfigure existing parking stalls, relocate bicycle parking, expand trash enclosures. It's all such exciting stuff. And new landscaping. No changes to building square footages or footprints or the amount of on-site parking spaces are proposed. Final approval is requested. Project plans must demonstrate substantial conformance to the plans that received project design approval on September 27th, 2023, which is when the project was last reviewed. So if you would give your names for the record and then your presentation.
I am Michael.
Oh, gotta press the button.
Sorry about that. Hi, I'm Michael Katsibis. I'm the architect on the project from
Okay.
Cat Studios.
Mick Unwin with MGMT, project manager on the project.
Okay,
Courtney Jane Miller, landscape architect.
thank you.
Hi, everyone. So I think you know the background to the project.
Oh,
We
yes.
probably won't go into that again because I think we've kind of touched on that several times. The last time that we were here, we were asked to look at three things architecturally and also some things for the landscape. So in terms of the architectural, we were asked to look at the 3 new window openings on the gable ends of the Mercer building, which is on the corner, and then also on the side facade of one of the interior buildings. We were also asked to describe how the ventilation, fresh air intake, and the mechanical strategy was going to work. Then also just look at the terrace on the end of the Mercer building and just see how that could be looked to be more in keeping with the overall design of the existing building. So we've addressed those 3 architectural concerns, and I'll flip to the relevant pages. So in terms of Probably the easiest way to describe them is just to flip to the renders.
163 pages.
There's a
That's
lot of
pretty good
pages.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, we have the renderings here. Is that our renderings?
Yes.
Yes.
Bathroom
That's
interiors.
yeah, exactly. So that's the previous renders that we looked at last time. So I think one of the things that was concern of was the larger window, gable end window here. So we've revised that to be more of a door with 2 punch windows next to it. So you can see, just flip to the renders. So this has been revised in this image there. So you can see here what we've done here is we've changed it to a central door. So that is a double leaf door with 2 punch windows either side, and they're picking up on the mullions and transoms and grids of the existing window panes. We've also lined up all of the window head heights to match the existing. So those are all lining up with those there. So that has been changed on this gable end of the Mercer building and also on the other one that looks over to the street. So that's a similar strategy that's been used here. So these new windows have a central door that is a double swing door with 2 punch windows either side, and that all lines up in terms of head heights with the existing windows as well, and that's all reflected on the project elevations. The other strategy that we were asked to look at was the mechanical strategy for the restaurant, and that's all going to be housed within an internal space above the restaurant, so that's all within the attic space of the internal restaurant. We've also added, to get fresh air intake to these spaces, there are existing dormers on the building, so we've reflected those existing dormers, and we've kind of added new dormers on the heights of the buildings there with a louvered facade, and those will be rendered on the sides to match the stucco of the existing buildings, and then they'll have wood louvers on the front of them to pick up the existing dormers that are on the other ones. So that addresses the fresh air intake. And then the final thing in terms of architectural that we were asked to look at was the delineation of this fencing around the terrace. It was previously curved, and we have squared it off to match the kind of rectangular shapes of the existing buildings. So those are the kind of 3 things that we were asked to look at from an architectural sense, and that's how they've been addressed.
Thank you. And then the entry trellis element is part of the landscape
part of the landscape,
presentation?
exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. So we were asked to study the trellis and, all the different ways that that fits together. So let's see if we can find our plans. And we did make a number of changes to that detail.
Music.
It's
Yeah.
nice.
I quieted my phone, but my watch didn't get the message.
Yeah, so first I'll kind of zoom in on the plan here so you can see the posts or, columns are here on either side of the path. One of the comments was to study narrowing the width, and we chose not to do that because we feel pretty strongly about the width of the walkway here, and we want those columns to be outside of that walkway. But what we did do is we lengthened it in the longitudinal direction along the walk so that you can see in this plan view. And then I'll go to the detail. And so we were asked to study changing the columns from what they were before, which is wood, to either stucco or brick. And so we went with the brick and added a cap and a base here, and I can zoom in more if needed. We also did bring the height down. That was, I think, the main comment or concern. It's just kind of the overall scale and the renderings appeared pretty massive in relationship with everything else. So what we did is, this walkway has a little bit of a slope to it, so we held it to 7'2" to the top of the rafter there on the high side. So we're still, ADA compliant on that side, but that's sort of the limiting factor. So we didn't want that to be super low on the high side. And overall, it brought the height down by about 8 inches. And then, let me just see.
Pull the terrace back a little bit too, so the landscaping.
Yeah. Did I?
That's on the side.
I don't know where my notes went. So in addition to that, there was a comment about the deck and making sure we have appropriate landscaping to screen the edge. So that's here. And we also have a section I can show you that's, that depicts, a cut through this way. But one thing we did here is, in order to kind of address that adjacency with the existing sidewalk and the street versus the deck, is we pulled the edge of the deck back by about 3 feet. So the overall, height difference, vertical height difference between the deck and the adjacent grade is not as significant. And then the other thing we've done is added a hedge all the way around. So this, I think, will end up being somewhat similar to, what is the restaurant in the middle of the lower village, the vegan one? They have a similar condition on
Used to
the
be
front of their
Peabody's.
building. Yeah, where
whatever
they
it's
have a
called.
hedge that's tucked under the building actually, sticks out a little
Uh-huh.
bit. And so there's a hedge below that. So we're, thinking this will be somewhat similar to that condition, with the hedge just kind of growing up to the height of the deck. And that'll allow ventilation and also help hopefully prevent critters from getting under there. And then we have, other shrubs and succulents adjacent to that. And I see we don't have our landscape representative here today.
We do
so,
not.
You'll have to trust me
Yeah.
on the species.
Tell us a story.
You have a trustworthy look to you.
Yes, good to know for this project. So this is a, rough section through that area, just to kind of show the hedge we kind of want it to be right in line with the posts, so that, it can be trimmed and not get up too tall in front of the deck. And I think that addresses all of the comments related to landscape. Is there anything else we need to share? And we're here for final review.
I think that was it. Yep.
So we look forward to your comments.
Okay, well, if that concludes your presentation, I'll open it to public comment.
Thank you, Vice Chair House. I'll go ahead and start with in-person public comment at this time. I haven't received any speaker slips, but if you do wish to speak in person, you can fill out a speaker slip by the back door. I'm not seeing any movement, so I'll go ahead and move to virtual public comment. If you wish to speak on Zoom at this time, you can raise your hand and I'll call on you. I'm not seeing any hands raised, and we also did not receive any written correspondence for this item, so I'll turn it back over to you, Vice Chair House.
Okay, I will close public comment and open it to questions from the commission. Any questions? And then I will proceed to comments from the commission. Or if everybody's
All right, I'll jump in, okay.
hunky-dory with
Yeah.
this.
Everybody's running for the microphone.
Yeah.
Commissioner
Uli is speaking.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Great progress.
Thank you.
I think it continues to move in a great direction, and I like it. I definitely can support final approval. So when you're ready for that, Mr. Chair.
Are there any other comments? Then would you like to make a motion?
Yes. Move to grant final approval of the project and have agree that the drawings we reviewed is in substantial conformance to the plans that we received during PDA.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Uli, second by Jordan. Roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair House. I'll proceed with roll call vote. Commissioner Dordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Ensberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Commissioner Lindvik,
Yes.
Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Vice Chair House.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Do I have to announce appeal period for a final approval? Yes. Okay, there's a 10-day appeal period to City Council on this approval.
Great. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for your time. Thank you so much.
When are you opening? Okay.
You're already open.
Yeah. Okay. Next item is, what's that?
It's scheduled for 3:30.
Yes, exactly. So we're right on time. Thank you all. So 221 East Islay Street is a new item here for concept review, listed on the Historic Resources Inventory, constructed in 1923 in the English Arts and Crafts style. Proposal for a new 1,044 square foot basement, 1,286 square foot ground floor addition, 1,526 square foot second floor addition to an existing 2,642 square foot single unit residence, demolition of existing 365 square foot detached garage, construction of a new 504 square foot attached garage, and 166 square foot detached workshop. No final appealable action will take place at this meeting. Project compatibility findings, minor alteration findings, and grading findings will be required for project design approval. So, you again. They were at consent
Deja
for
vu.
a electric meter location. So,
Which we care deeply about.
we do, yeah. It was contentious, I tell you. Okay, names for the record and your presentation, please.
Trish Allen with SEPS.
And this is Serena Edelson with Harrison Design.
And
Edward Fisher, homeowner.
Okay.
who starts? Nicole was going to do an intro, but she's not here. Would you like to start?
Yeah,
Sure.
I'd like EJ to start.
All right, is this thing on?
Nicole had a little memo, but
Ah.
I hear
Yeah, she's running.
Pardon my interruption, Mr. Chair. I'm sure Ms. Hernandez is tuned in upstairs and coming down soon, but she did write a memo that was linked to the agenda that states that the project does meet the. I'll let her say it herself.
Cool. Anyways,
We'll wait for, I think, Nicole to do it.
sorry.
We all were
trying to make up
surprised
for
for the
time.
second time today. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just move
Yep,
it.
yep. Good.
Running for election.
Yeah.
I just had a short intro
Please vote
for
for
the
me.
item for you all. So this is on the Historic Resources Inventory. It was built in 1923 in the English arts and crafts style. And mostly what makes that special in Santa Barbara is we don't have very many of that style. This was much more common in Great Britain than Santa Barbara, where we have more of the simple craftsman style. But the report really talks about how it comes from like the Tudor architecture of the 16th century rural England. It's characterized by simple, well-proportioned solid forms, steep roofs, half timbering, and designed to express through the texture such as stucco or plaster. And it also has the sandstone, really expressive wall on the front elevation. And the project does meet the Secretary of Interior standards, which a memo outlines, mostly that it is on the rear and will not destroy materials, features, and spatial relationships that characterize the property on the front and publicly visible elevations. And the addition will be compatible with the original in carrying the plaster walls, divided light window patterns, yet differentiated, and there'll be double glazed windows and to meet current codes. And the size and scale and proportion and massing do not overwhelm the historic building. And it is set back from the front facade and will allow the original building to be the dominant feature facing the streetscape. And the new attached doors are appropriate for the 1923 house with wood carriage style doors that will be compatible with the site for the public view down the driveway that is framed by the sandstone piers.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry, I was
You were getting your exercise.
used to you guys taking like 40 minutes an item. I thought I had a while. I know.
Okay.
Presentation. Sure. Anyways, I'll keep this quick. My name is Edward Fisher, homeowner at 221 East Islay. Just wanted to tell you guys a little bit about my family and how we arrived at the scope of this project today.
We have purview over his family.
I don't know, we'll find out.
Okay.
I mean, not that interesting, but I think it's interesting.
Okay.
Anyways, a little bit about our family. We moved into the home a little over 3 years ago. We have a 2-year-old daughter and another one on the way in May, and hopefully more after that. Ask my wife. We moved to Santa Barbara back in 2019 with the intention to set roots in this town and start a family. We looked for a home for years before moving here, and finally found a property that was large enough to fit our growing needs, including more kids, dogs, and eventually my mother and potentially mother-in-law. That was supposed to be a joke. Nobody laughed. Anyways.
It went over my head.
I know. Yeah. Additionally, my family and my wife's family is all out of state. They visit a lot. We have a lot of little cousins and nieces and nephews running around, and it's tough to accomplish that in the home as it is now. Anyways, we love the Upper East neighborhood. We're really happy we found this place. We love the walkability, beautiful sandstone walls, the historic homes. We plan to make this neighborhood our home for a long time. Note the downstairs master bedroom. Plan on dining in this place. Anyways, since we moved here, we've met all of our neighbors, spent a lot of time together, mostly with our dogs wrestling in the yard. But we've also spent a lot of time walking them through this project to get their support. And to that end, you should have received several letters of support from all of our immediate neighbors on both sides and everyone on our street. I think there might be a few more in the mail from those neighbors across the street that don't use email. But they're coming, I promise. Moving on to the existing home. Well, Nicole talked about a lot of that. We love the timber detailing too and plan to incorporate those features into the expansion. We acquired the home from some home flippers who did an okay lipstick job, but didn't touch any of the guts, including the plumbing, electrical, all knob and tube original and failing. And you don't even want to see the foundation. Anyways, as with other homes for this period, the low ceilings, chopped up nature of the floor plan make it difficult for our family to enjoy as is. And speaking from experience being 6'4", that I cannot count the number of times that I've banged my head into our light fixture in our living room. And not to mention having a 1 or 2 inch clearance walking through doorways is a bit unnerving. Not to mention good luck with keeping an eye on a toddler in the playroom when you're making dinner in the kitchen. As I mentioned before, we love the home and hope that you guys think we put forward a proposal to maintain the integrity of the existing home while giving us room to expand. Note that we worked closely with Anthony and Serena here at Harrison to maintain the plate height levels when looking at the exterior of their home to help with masting and not push the limits of what would look good. We did this with the intention to not waste the committee's time with proposing something larger that would be cut back later. Additionally, we're utilizing the basement for a lot of the square footage. While also sticking with the historic home guidelines of pushing everything to the back of the property. And a quick note on the one-car workshop at the front of the property that you see. One of my personal hobbies is woodworking. I think one of the photos that they came out and took of the site, my garage was open and you saw a table that I was working on. Anyways, I'd like to have a space to keep all my tools so my wife doesn't yell at me about not having a parking spot and to cut down on noise for the neighbors. And also we'd probably use that space for battery storage for our solar array that we're putting on the roof. In case those ever catch on fire, they don't burn our house down. It'll be a separate structure. Anyways, that was the idea for that. With that being said, we want it to all look like it fits with the original scale of the home. Especially the homes with the large lots in the neighborhood. Anyways, thank you for your time, and I'll turn it over to the experts.
Thank you. I see you're Edward Fisher the Fourth. Tell us about 3, 2, and 1.
I know. Well, we actually have 5 coming in May. So.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not very creative with names.
Yeah, PJ, you're hired. I think he's done a wonderful job of setting the tone for the effort that we've put in thus far, and this is very much a home for a family who wants to be here for a long time. Thus, the impetus of needing an addition to this historic home that they love. Trish has zoomed in on image 8 on the cover sheet, which shows the proposed area of the addition. The kind of strategy will be to add to the rear and projected side of the house. It's even further set back than the existing non-historic dilapidated garage. We considered also ways to add on to the back of the house, but you'll see on the image here, or will you stay on image 8, Trish? Thanks. To the left of the proposed addition are 2 large oaks, so we don't want to impact their presence on the property. So this very much seemed like the natural place for the proposed addition. And then as EJ mentioned, and we'll see in floor plans, additional square footage is resolved in the basement underneath, which is very helpful. I also want to point out that throughout this design process, we've been thoughtful about preserving views from the public right-of-way, as well as neighborhood compatibility. You can see the footprint of the addition as compared to some of the neighboring residences, though it is impactful to, like, as compared to the size of the existing home, it's actually relatively conservative. Let's look at image 9, Trish, up above. So here's a rendering perspective of what that view from the public right-of-way would look like. Again, it is actually stepping back from the footprint and massing of the main house while preserving the similar massing and architectural features that are consistent with the historic language. Next page. So I think first we'll look at image 7. This shows the existing condition of a similar view. From the public right-of-way, you can see the original home, and then far up the driveway is a peak towards that existing non-historic garage. Again, our proposed addition is actually proposed to be set back even further than that wall plane. And then image 21 shows the image of the existing garage. I think just one more row down. And oh, you can see EJ's table in there. So again, this is not a historic structure and certainly doesn't fit much at all, let alone the size of normal cars nowadays. So next we'll go to the site plan sheet. And you can see the existing site plan on the left.
Can't get much bigger.
Yeah, I think this is fine, actually, Trish. Thank you. So existing site plan on the left, and then the proposed site plan on the right-hand side. Again, we are showing the workshop proposed there. It is set back further from the right-of-way as compared to the main house. That is done intentionally. It also does allow, though, for turnaround space from the new proposed garage. And then we also included the HLC guidelines up at the top of the sheet, which show proposed or preferred locations for additions, and we've taken a lot of due diligence to design within those guidelines. Next page. Yeah. Exactly. So this is the original floor plan. The only thing I think worth noting here is the kind of small sized existing rooms. And on the left side of this floor plan, there are existing like non-historic aluminum sliders. We're proposing to take those out and put historically appropriate divided light French doors.
Have they acquired historic significance in their own right?
Have they patinaed?
Yeah.
They're damaged, they're bent.
Okay, next. This is this.
Be an inside joke.
Yeah, it's an HL.
It's standard number 4.
Yeah.
We had a training minute.
This is the second story. You can see the small-sized existing bedrooms here. Again, kind of separated and only a couple bathrooms serving these existing bedrooms. And so what we're proposing is on the next sheets. This is the proposed basement, which again would not be visible from public view, but has helped to create some family space that is not impactful to public views. And then the first floor plan, you can see where the proposed addition actually steps back from the massing and creates room for driveway turnaround, et cetera, and family spaces, a kitchen that serve life nowadays. This is the proposed second floor, similarly with bedrooms and ensuite bathrooms. You'll see better in elevation, but a lot of work has been done to incorporate proposed, architectural features like the aesthetic of a sleeping porch and windows and doors, half timbering to match and echo the original architectural features. Yep. And then similarly, the roof plan was even cleverly designed, so we have considered ample space for solar panels, but they would not be visible from public view. Yep. And here are the elevations. These are the existing elevations. You can see on image 2 that those sliders, which we're proposing to replace with divided light French doors. And next, Trish. The proposed demo elevations. We've the image on image 4. If you could zoom into that, Trish. Yeah, perfect. That shows kind of the clever way where we are tying in the proposed addition to the existing roof, impacting as little as possible. And the windows here would be preserved, the sleeping porch. So here are the proposed elevations. The image 1, actually, if you'd zoom in on the bottom, yeah, is the view from the street. So you can see here the way that the proposed addition steps itself back and will be kind of further up that driveway. But even with that, we've taken a lot of work to keep ridge lines at or below existing and maintained the 7'5" plate height. Even though EJ is a tall guy, we felt very important. It was important to maintain those plate heights throughout. Yeah, and so this is the side view, this is the rear view, what you would see from the backyard, where we're kind of echoing those architectural features and details, including those proposed French doors to the right of this elevation. Oh, will you go back to the previous, pardon me, this is the right sheet, Trish. So, I would like to propose a question for the HLC. We actually have 2 different design options we're considering for this little terrace off of the primary suite. Trish, if you would zoom into image 2 and 3, kind of here and here. This is perfect. Yeah. So there are, and then, yeah, we can take a look at the previous sheet. There are 2 different options here. One is a covered porch, and one is a non-covered porch. We've shown that in both ways, and then Trisha's going to go back to the previous sheet. I think it's easier to see it from the street view. Perfect.
Yeah. I see.
Thanks for your patience.
Gonna lose it soon.
Yes.
No, kidding.
So again, we have 2 different design options here. We feel that the option on the my left-hand side is a preferred option. We think it's more in keeping with historic massing. It makes sense that the roof would be over the whole footprint of the structure and kind of completes the design. But we did want to kind of consider both options. You can see even with the design on the left-hand side, it's still very conservative with the solar angles for the adjacent property. And the next, yeah, we can take a look at the side one last time. Oopsies.
What'd you do?
I hit Control-Z.
Oh, and went to minus, yeah.
So you can see here, the image on the left has a pier in the middle, which would support that roof overhanging the terrace. The image on the right does not. This is the proposed elevations for the workshop. Again, it will have carriage doors on the back side to serve for function. What we would see from the public right-of-way is just a charming little window. And last, we wanted to come back to this image, the existing and proposed, if you will, for the scope of the addition. Again, we wanted to just make sure to point out that we have tried to be respectful of the kind of the public views and the existing massing, stepping away from it as necessary, but echoing the architectural massing and details as appropriate for this home. Thank you very much. We look forward to questions.
Does that conclude your presentation?
It does.
Okay, I will open public comment then.
Thank you, Vice Chair House. I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, I haven't received any speaker slips, but if you do wish to speak.
Don't all speak up at once.
I can't see around my screen.
Made you look.
Okay, well then we'll go ahead and move to virtual public comment. I do have one hand raised on Zoom at this time, so we'll go ahead and start with Lisa Kamensend. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. I'm going to go ahead and give you permission right now, and you'll be able to unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, great. This is Lisa Kamensend. We live right next door at 209 East Islay. And we are delighted that EJ and Caroline, Edward and Caroline are our neighbors with their growing family. We also have a family of 3, along with, many animals. And what they're proposing is amazing and beautiful. And I believe it's in keeping with Santa Barbara tradition. And I do prefer the one on the left.
The covered porch, is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay. Does that conclude your comments?
That concludes my comments.
Well, thank you.
Okay, we don't have any other hands raised on Zoom at this time, but we did receive several letters from Marcus Morales, James and Kansas Wilt, and then Peter and Lisa Kamensend. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Vice Chair House.
Thank you. I will close public comment and open it to questions from the commission.
Mr. Chair, Vice Chair.
Commissioner Jordan.
I have a question about the history of the house. And I know that it's really outside the purview of this committee, but you've mentioned several times small-sized rooms. Are those original or the result of a later remodeling of the house?
To the best of my knowledge, the small-sized rooms are more or less historically conventional. I don't know the history of this house specifically.
That's what I would assume, that the rooms originally would have been quite small. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll move to comments then.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Uli, I'm sorry.
I'll take a stab. First, Mr. Fisher, thanks for choosing Santa Barbara to grow your roots. I think we all did that at some point, and it's a lovely place to be. I like this project. I think the architects have been incredibly sensitive to the historic fabric of the existing building. I think the massing fits. It just doesn't give you the impression that it's overbearing to its site at all. It is a lovely building to walk by. I'm comfortable with the little workshop up front, because we all need a little workshop somewhere that we're not hearing somebody else scream about it, and so it's a nice little. It kind of reminds me of having a little one-car garage. A little Model T is parked in there next to the old house. It kind of has that sense to it, and so I like that. I believe this is a very supportable project.
Thank you. I had a question of staff. Is there any FAR concern on this project?
No, the FAR for this is guideline, so there's no concern about that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Jordan.
I find this a very supportable project. In terms of the 2 options, the roof enclosed porch is the one that I would recommend. I think it's more aligned with the actual English usage. So that's what I would agree with. The other comment I have is that I want to commend you for involving the neighbors. And that's, it builds a stronger community. And it's a touchy subject. It's come up before HLC with other projects. So I just want to commend you and commend your neighbors for their participation in the project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other comments? I will weigh in on the covered porch. I agree that the covered option is best. I'm just not sold on the configuration of it, that large horizontal orientation opening, and I don't know what it should be. And it also seems a little eccentric from the garage door below, so it just seems kind of like an odd thing, you know, that my eye goes to and says, that's not quite right. So anyway, that might be something to look at and see if it needs to be divided up into smaller openings or an arch or whatever would be the appropriate approach to that. So this is here for concept review, so I guess we'll just be making a motion for an indefinite continuance. And I guess we could say that we would be prepared to give it project design approval when it returns.
Mr. Chair, I'll move indefinite continuance and add that comment that it seems appropriate for design approval when it returns.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion by Uli, second by Jordan. Can we have a roll call vote, please? Staff, you have a comment?
Yes, before we take the vote, are there any other comments that you wanted included in the motion?
Restudy the openings of the covered porch on the second floor over the garage.
And then would you like to include that the covered portion is the preferred option?
Yeah,
for
the
commission?
covered porch option, the covered option is the preferred one.
More appropriate to the architecture.
Yeah. Roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair House. I'll proceed with roll call vote. Commissioner Butler?
Yes?
Commissioner Lindbeck?
Yes.
Commissioner Uli?
Yes.
Commissioner Dordan?
Yes.
Commissioner Ensberg?
Yes.
Vice Chair House?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your feedback.
Good luck with that.
Now, the
And-
question is our chair going to be here for the final item?
Well, we are a little ahead of schedule. The next item does not start till 4:15,
Oh,
so we should
wait, take a break.
recess until
We
at
are
least 4. So however long you want.
Temporarily in recess.
Who can run fast?
Yeah.
only if the applicant team is ready.
Okay, reconvening the November 8th, 2023 Historic Landmarks Commission meeting. And the next item on the agenda is item 6, 1919 State Street. It is here for project design approval. It's located within the El Pueblo Viejo Landmark District. The proposal to convert 3 buildings at 1913, 1919, and 1921 State Street from office use to hotel use. Proposal for a conversion of ground floor area to private patios, an addition to the existing 4th floor to create livable space and a roof deck. It includes reduction of 365 square feet at the 2nd floor, reduction at the 3rd floor, replacement, relocation of existing stairs, elevator extension, site alterations, and new landscaping. No proposed exterior alterations to 1913 State Street. A reduction of square footage and new entry doors at 1921 State Street. Project requires a waiver by the Historic Landmarks Commission to allow an alternative parking lot landscape design. Project design approval is requested. Project compatibility findings and alternative landscape design waiver findings are required. Project was last reviewed on September 13th of this year. So, come on up.
Yeah, come on down.
Yeah, come on down.
Pardon my interruption, Mr. Chair. Before we get into
You never have to excuse yourself for interrupting me.
I will anyway. But
Okay.
before we get into the previous minutes, staff just has a brief announcement. As you probably saw, there's been a lot of public comment regarding the use. And I just want to remind the commission and members of the public who may be tuning in virtually that the purview of this commission is not over the use, only of the exterior changes and aesthetics. So just wanted to.
You took the words out of my mouth, and I was going to say something to that effect, but that's good to announce that. Okay, so if you would give your names for the record, and then your presentation, please.
Great, thank you. Eric Baer with AB Design Studio. With me is
Will Rivera, also with AB Design Studio.
And Justin Manuel with Arcadia Studio.
So I will keep our presentation brief. If the board recalls our last hearing, the feedback was mostly all positive. The board felt that the project was ready for design approval with a few comments to be addressed. The last hearing we were agendized for concept only, so we weren't able to have a project design approval motion. So I'm going to move straight to the elevations and just speak of the adjustments that were made to the proposed design based on the board's feedback.
Don't we want to hear minutes first? Yeah.
For a minute.
Yes.
For a minute.
If admin staff could pause the applicant's presentation time and I can go through the minutes. So the motion from the last hearing was to continue indefinitely with the following comments. 1, the commission appreciates the applicants for listening to the commissioner's previous comments. They have done a great job improving the design. It is an improvement to the existing building. 2, continue to study the freestanding arches on State Street, either integrate them into the building, eliminate them, or change to a different way of screening. The whole piece needs to be simplified. 3, continue to study the 3 arches on Building B in perspective. The commission does not feel that it's necessary as a design element. Look at simplifying them to simple piers, perhaps with a trellis. 4, the elevator tower is acceptable as proposed. 5, the plants up against the parapet edge spilling over onto the State Street side are not needed. The commission suggests they be removed. 6, restudy the transition between the stepped parapet on State Street and the taller parapet on the current plaster corbel. 7, check whether utilities such as valves and transformers need to be installed. Study where those might go if they need upgrading or installing. 8, the commission appreciates the solution on the south elevation. 9, the commission feels that the project is ready for project design approval with the above comments being addressed. And Commissioners Uli and Drury were absent. If Commissioner Uli did not review the previous minutes and recording, he will not be able to vote at this hearing.
I did.
Thank
You did. Okay. All right, back to your presentation, please.
Okay, back to me, thank you. So this on the screen here is the previous presentation. So I think the primary comments from the board were to continue to study the proposed freestanding archway, the revised proposal shown here. So we've looked at this, and this is what we've landed on. So we're keeping the columns that were proposed and proposing a trellis to be set atop that rather than the arches. I can speak more about that, as can Will, if there's questions, but this is the revision that we think is the best alternative solution. The next comment regarding this elevation was to eliminate the proposed landscaping. We had a planter behind the parapet wall. We've eliminated that, which you can see here, along with further studying this sort of transition between the low parapet and this higher screening wall, which we have revised in the proposed elevation here. Along with the comment to restudy the arches along State Street, that same recommendation was put forth to restudy the arches that were proposed in front of the building in the back. So if I go back to the previous plans for Building B, you can see we had proposed a freestanding arch there, which we've revised to be consistent with the columns with the trellis above, as I showed along State Street. I think the next comment here, recommending we study utilities. We're working through that right now with engineering. We're not prepared to present that today, but we will be prepared to present that at our final approval hearing. And I think that that was it for my presentation. We're available to answer questions.
Well,
Thank
that
you.
was fast. Okay. And you have a presentation?
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. I just wanted to share this other view. We updated the proposed 3D perspective as well to show the revisions to that previously proposed archway.
Oh, without the cornice on that screen wall. Is that right? On the roof?
Yeah, I think you're correct. Good catch. Here.
Yeah.
That's actually behind, so
Oh,
that's
okay.
the,
That's behind.
yeah. So that's back at this line.
Oh, okay. Okay, so if that concludes your presentations.
One other item, one other thing is, I know that we're not going to speak of 1925, but what we did was we did include that in this perspective just to show the two projects together, because they will be
Yeah.
essentially looking as one project.
Right. I thought he was talking about the year 1925 and the earthquake. Okay. So if that concludes your presentation, we'll open public comment.
Thank you, Vice Chair House. I'll start with in-person public comment. And it looks like we don't have anyone in person, so I'll go ahead and move to virtual public comment. If you wish to speak on Zoom at this time, you can raise your hand and I'll call on you. I'm not seeing any hands raised, but we did receive several letters from Susan Shields, Deborah Brown, an anonymous letter, Bree Wall, Julia and Daniel Moore, Melissa Lawley, and Elizabeth Flanagan. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Vice Chair House.
Okay, so I'll open it to questions from the commission. Getting tired, I can see. Okay, let's move on to comments.
Well, I have a question.
Okay.
I will ask it. Go to your exterior elevations. Go to your exterior elevations. And I'm looking at the south elevation. And that right element is projecting out a little bit. Isn't that the drive-through area there?
Mm-hmm.
How come its parapet is taller than, or is this parapet accurately drawn taller than the parapet on the State Street elevation? The rear elevation.
The parapet is taller, but it's.
No, go to the back side. Right there. You know, you're turning the corner there, and when you turn the corner on the right side, the parapet is taller. Is that an error, or is it something architecturally happening that I don't pick up on?
That is not an error. It's actually drawn correctly. The portion of the building that you see on the front, on the west side, is taller. The portion on the west side is lower,
I see.
lower parapet.
I see.
But we should see a bit of that right-hand element from the rear view, shouldn't we?
I didn't draw it in the back because it's just
Okay.
too far back.
Okay.
And you've, on the south elevation, or what's the property line elevation until you brought the lot together? You have those two arches there, but yet you have the flat opening arch both on the State Street and on the backside. No thought of, yeah, I mean, that's on the front and on the back as well, and then you go around the corner and you have the Romanesque arch. And it is, I'm curious as to your thinking there. Variety is the spice of life, I know.
Poetry, exactly.
That's all.
I took the words out of my mouth. Architectural expression.
I must comment that this really is a good-looking project. Now, it really is. That what you did on the State Street frontage, I think helped a lot. As far as I'm concerned, it helped a lot.
Do you have a corresponding view that, or model that shows that other corner?
We didn't update the
Okay.
other view, we just updated this one view.
Okay. Other comments?
Questions?
Questions?
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair. So just to be clear, following up on Commissioner Lenvick's, so we have this, the drive-through on the front, the State Street side is like this, and then on the back side, it's two arches?
No, backside the same thing as that.
Oh, okay.
Turn the corner.
Okay, so then the back side, can I see the back side? Oh, there it is. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Should say open to the great beyond, I think.
I almost changed it.
The two arches go to the little house on the side. Yeah. Okay. Are we still in questions or are we
I
doing
think, yeah,
comments?
we were in questions.
Okay.
Any other questions? Now you may make a comment.
Okay. I think it's really looks good, and I think it's come a long way, and I really appreciate your work and, working with us and taking the comments to heart and coming back. I think you've done a really good job. I would be fine to move it forward. My only one thing that I will say, just for however you want to take it, I just am just having a little bit of trouble with the railing on the second floor. It just seems a little. You've got a lot going on. So we went from the one old building to now here, and we've really swung quite a bit. So it feels just a little bit busy to me, but I'm fine with it. It's a minor comment. So I just kind of ask to you how you would feel, but even if that upper area was just solid, I feel like you have just so much going on that it would work really, really well. But I'm fine either way. And thank you again, and good job, especially the awnings.
Mr. Vice Chair.
Yes.
So supportive, like the work. The redesign of the State Street view, that particular view, originally the request was to simplify it. And then when I saw this, I said, I didn't feel this was simpler, but I preferred it. So, this is, I think, an improvement, even though I didn't think it was a simplification of what the arches, I like the arches as well, but I think overall, it's a supportable design.
Who else has a comment?
I have
Commissioner
a couple of comments. First of all, I can support this project going forward, and I appreciate the effort you've put into working with the HLC on this. The minutes from the last time had the phrase, this was an improvement of the existing building. And I think that's one of the great understatements of my time on the HLC. The last comment I have is really, we received a lot of public comment about this, and there was a staff comment at the beginning which saved us a lot of time and really nailed the situation. But I share the concern of the public, and my comment is that concern, there's a big learning curve for the public at large about how decisions are made about land use in the city. And so I just simply want to encourage them to continue to learn about where the pressure points are in the system. And we are not one of the pressure points about land use.
Yeah,
So-
lay off us.
Lay off us. But this is it's a very commendable project, and I'm perfectly able to support PDA.
Thank you. I have a question on that elevation. I don't know what to call it, but it's got the number 2 on it. That's a screen for, there's some cell tower equipment. I mean, I never really thought about it or noticed it until your rendering today, and it just kind of sticks up there. And I don't know that it would benefit by a cornice on it as well. But it just seems like an odd element there. Can it be made smaller or pulled back or anything like that?
It needs to stay in its same height and location to fully screen the equipment without having to get into the whole can of worms of moving
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
It's existing.
yeah. What do you think about a cornice on it?
We looked
Not a
at
big,
putting
massive one, but, you know.
we
just-
looked at putting a course on it, and I think I agree with Cass, or somebody made a mention that even the little cornice on the lower portion of it, I think that shouldn't even be removed and just simplify it, because, and, you know, don't draw attention to it, make it just go away.
Uh-huh.
And
And it's also probably not framed in stucco, it's a radio
Correct.
translucent material or something.
It's not translucent, but it is a special
Not
material.
translucent
Right.
to light, but to radio waves, so,
Correct.
yeah. Fiberglass or something like that. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Just a couple of comments. I don't have great faith in fiberglass materials for cell towers surviving the test of time. They always turn out looking like, you know, a pile of smelly stuff. So I would hope that the best material could be had to make that.
How long has it been there?
It's probably been there, I don't know, 15 years.
Yeah, so
You know,
it's
it's
held
been
up
there a
that
long
long
time.
already.
Yeah, well.
The fact that you haven't noticed it is actually a good thing, right?
Well, I noticed
I think
it,
to
but-
clarify though, I think we are intending to plaster the outward facing facade
Yeah.
of it, because it's kind of 2 Ls, so there's equipment on the other corner that allows kind of for full, you know, radiate. So what you'd be seeing here would be plaster to match the building.
Yeah. So that's my only comment about telecommunications, because apparently we don't have a whole lot to say about it. The second matter is I think the columns supporting the trellis on the State Street elevation seem just a tad bit spindly to me. You know, you've got these wonderful columns that they're sitting on, and then they just kind of look like toothpicks. So I'm wondering, you know, if you bump them up a size or something. I don't know what they look like
6x6s,
but maybe you make them 8x8s or 10x10, something. They just look a little too spindly to me. Otherwise, you know, as facademies go, this should get the award, because this has no indication of the previous building except for where you drive in. So it's amazing what you've done. So very supportable. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, well, I will bring up the striped awnings. I mean, I see that they were on the last presentation, and there weren't any comments in the minutes, and so I don't remember if that was a suggestion you heard and you acted on it.
We thought
But-
you liked them. You don't like them?
It's generally not our policy to approve striped awnings, but I tried to see if there was any written policy to that effect, and I can't find it. There's the color guide, which shows a lot of solid colors, but no mention of striped awnings. So it is pretty subtle. I see what the material choice is, so how does everybody feel about striped awnings?
I'm okay with them. Yeah.
Everybody okay with them? All right.
If we don't have a written policy that prohibits them, then I'm okay with them.
Okay.
And I do think that the color choices are, thank you.
Subtle.
Are subtle, and I think they will
Yeah.
probably be subtler when they're up there.
Okay, who cares to make a motion for project design approval? And that lucky person gets to make the compatibility findings.
Pardon my interruption, before we launch into that, are there any comments that you would like to summarize for final approval, or?
The comments would be some motion for project design approval, and the columns, the wood columns atop the plaster columns at the front trellis element should be more stout, and they appear spindly. Were there any other things?
Mr. Chair, if the wall at note number 2 is actually a new constructed plastered wall, should it not have that cap that you're suggesting?
Well, it seems to me it should just have a little definition to it, but, so are you building a new wall? I mean, you wouldn't, over the fiberglass?
Yeah, I think it's already plaster, isn't it, Will?
Okay, well, that would be something to investigate for your final approval. And does this need to come back in progress?
Not if it looks this good in the final.
Well, there's details to be worked out,
Consent,
but
probably.
you might choose to come back in progress if you want input on details as you're working them out, so. But that's not a requirement.
And through the chair, so the second comment that you mentioned was or investigate the plaster wall. Were you looking at
On the cell phone screening element, and study the feasibility of true plaster over that, and consider adding a small cornice as well. So who's going to make that motion?
All right, okay. It's a laundry list of stuff to do.
Yeah.
Back up just a second, please. I'll move that we grant project design approval for 1919 State Street and associated elements of the project with the following compatibility findings, that the project is more consistent with the design guidelines than than it has ever been. It's compatible with architectural character of the city and the neighborhood. Its size, mass, bulk, and scale, while existing, is appropriate. Sensitivity to adjacent landmarks has been studied and resolved. Public views of the ocean and mountains are not impacted. Use of open space and landscaping is an appropriate solution. Historic Landmarks Commission finds that the project qualifies for an alternative landscape design waiver to provide relief of site constraints or to achieve a superior aesthetic. Except that
You're not asking for any waiver, are you? No,
Yes.
they're not asking for a waiver.
Yes.
Well, that's what it says.
Requires that.
Okay.
Yes, pardon my interruption. Through the chair to the rest of the commission and the applicant team, yes, and the applicant is requesting an alternative landscape design waiver. Just, they tried very hard to meet the
we get it.
standards for.
Does that have to do with the tree spacing, or?
Yes, there are very specific standards for alterations to the parking lot design and the landscaping there. It's very difficult to achieve without losing too much parking.
Yeah.
Is it worth a little bit of clarification? I know that there's the spacing as far as between parking stall, drive lane, parking stall, drive lane. We maximize landscaping to meet the ordinance. I think there was just a little bit of, we couldn't actually, that's
It
where
looked, it looked fine to me. I was
Yeah.
pleased with what they've done.
Yeah, that's where that
Okay.
came.
Are those all the findings I need to make?
Those are all the
Thank you.
findings.
I do have a question regarding landscape, if I might interrupt.
Hold on, so
Yeah, we need
motion
a
by
second
Uli,
first.
I'll
second by
second that.
Jordan.
Oh,
No,
you did,
second
okay.
by Jordan. All right, so you had
A curious question. Are those palm trees there now?
There's existing palm trees down the center park or planter strip, and then we have transplanted the existing palm trees that are in conflict on site.
But those are on the street frontage.
Oh, the street frontage, yes, those are existing on the, yeah.
Okay. Just curious, I don't remember, so, thank you.
okay, so roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair House. I'll proceed with roll call vote. Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Commissioner Dordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Ensberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes?
Commissioner Linvik,
Yes.
Vice Chair House.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, and there's a 10-day appeal period to City Council for this approval.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Did we run out of agenda items? Shoot.
You get to wrap the hammer.
Okay, adjourned.